$18.50. Does my audio sound any better?
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds a lot better.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to get some over in this area where the refrigerator is because I can hear the refrigerator a lot more right now. So I know I've got to get some foam or something there. I don't know.
Yeah, or you can shift maybe the wood more that way next time or something.
Yeah, and after I get
make your exit the other way.
Well, yeah, I've just got to kind of get it all figured out. But I just wanted to see if at least it would probably sound better if I was talking into the blankets and projecting my voice that way. It would deaden it more. That's why I've got to put some up in front of me. But I gotta have the TV here so I can have light.
Right.
Oh, so look at these scans.
Nice.
Oh, those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old
school. Not a big Pitt fan, but the colors look cool.
Yeah.
Iron City is kind of like a Yinzer Lone Star.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but that's really just based like on old, watching old sports or something.
That's pretty much all it is. It's Yinzer Lone Star. It's just cheap beer. Does the job. I did find a beer though. I don't know if I think I sent you the picture. This was a while ago, but it was the same beer that the captain in Jaws was drinking.
Oh, what was that?
Yeah.
Which
it was good. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
You baby raping motherfucker. Nah.
Yeah.
Let's get this started though.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Or I have to go get another drink refill myself.
Narragansett beer.
Yes. It was good. Alrighty.
All right.
5, 4, 3, 2. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another week of Next Round Sports. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here. This is Chris Porter with Caleb Culver and Jeff Amos. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing
good.
All right, we've got another exciting night as the Major League postseason is now underway. Started up last night, and already some big news happening there that we're going to discuss here a little later on, one of the later rounds. But right now, we're going to start with what is the moneymaker, the biggest sport in America, NFL, and we're going into week 4 now,
week
right?
5. Week 5 we're going into, but discussing week 4.
I feel like I've lost a week. Wow.
I know.
Yeah. Well, it helps when the NFL changes their schedule and moves it up and starts sooner and adds 17 games and all that good stuff.
Every week is Thursday.
Having 2 games on Mondays throwing me off. That's just weird.
Yes,
but anyway, starting out here, the NFL, we'll go ahead and start with my boys because they were the first ones out on Thursday night, getting the 20-15 win over the hapless Giants, which, hey, that's basically just another bye week. When the Cowboys play the Giants, Daniel Jones has not beaten the Giants in his career, or has not beaten the Cowboys in his career, and they look slow. I mean, they looked like the Giants. That's what it was. But
we know who they are.
Exactly. But the thing is, they only won 20-15. Early on, the Cowboys jumped out on them with the Rico Dowdle pass and CeeDee Lamb actually breaking one there early, but after that, that's all I can say. It was, they looked just like they did in the previous games. They're just lucky that the Giants can't get out of their own way. And then you lose Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence for multiple weeks.
I was going to say, that's your biggest takeaway from that game, unfortunately, is you lose your 2 defensive leaders. But you get a win. So you're 2-2.
Yes, but you got to win against the Giants, who you could have got a win with them just sitting on the bench. That's the whole thing. And now you've got them permanently on the bench for a few weeks.
Yeah, probably 6 to 8, I would think, for both of them, based on what I'm hearing.
Well, I think Micah's going to be a little quicker than that, but the one that has me concerned more is DeMarcus Lawrence, because anytime when you have like a foot issue like that, particularly if you're a defensive end, and I don't think they necessarily ruled out a Liz Frank injury, which is the worst kind of foot injury.
Yeah.
You can
That
have.
follows you the entire season, even basically.
Exactly. So I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence will at least miss 4 games. I think he could be pushing that 8-week line. And then as far as Micah Parsons, you would hope that he'll be back after the bye week. So I mean, just devastating to lose those guys, and then especially when you do it in week 4 of the season, there's really no one you could pick up to replace that. You basically replace him. You just basically have to survive. And I would say the only good thing is, and we'll probably get into this here in just a bit, that they play a Steelers team that's really not.
They've outperformed their record pretty much.
So, this game is
now. If they have Najee Harris, though, Najee Harris to me is an average back, better than Singletary, and I think he's going to cause trouble for the Cowboys next week.
Well, talking to a lot of my colleagues here up in the Pittsburgh area, I think this is going to be one of the worst Sunday night football games of the season. Worst played, that is.
Of scoring,
I think it's going to be absolutely terrible, and I'm not really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't blame you in that regard.
Looking real quick, I was trying to see, because Cowboys did actually make a pickup that they signed, but I forgot to write it down now that I'm thinking about it.
KJ Henry is the guy.
KJ Henry, that's who I was.
He was on the. Yeah, he was on. He is a fringe Bengals player and was signed off our practice squad. So,
gotta get somebody. You're dragging the out of the barrel.
Yeah, I mean, basically, again, our Bengals obsession with Clemson defensive players, so that's why he was on our team, and so congratulations.
You're welcome.
But but going back to that Cowboys Giants game, probably what stood out to me, it was the fact that I was just shocked that Mozzie Smith showed up for the first time in his career. I've never seen
it's been about
Mozzie
time.
Smith play well once in his entire career. And I thought Devin Singletary might actually be a factor in this game, because the Cowboys hadn't stopped anyone against the run, but he was fantastic.
They made it an effort.
They made him look decent, is what. Yeah, that's the Cowboys defense making him look decent. Singletary is not good.
No, he's not. But they focused in on the run, and they were able to stop it better than what they had been. However, as Caleb said, Singletary is not Alvin Kamara. Singleton is not Derrick Henry. He's a serviceable running back. He's a great second punch to start out. That's why he had such a good season in Houston last year. But he's not lead back material, just like Ezekiel Elliott's not lead back material.
Yeah, or Tony Pollard, really. I mean, Tony Pollard's having a better year, but it's still not what you want from a lead back.
No, not at all.
And another thing that stood out to me in this game was just how good the Giants receiving core is. Malik Neighbors, I think you can make the argument he's one of the best 10 receivers in the league right now. And then
he was the go-to guy to watch on that offense, in all honesty, going into this game.
And then
so we know how good he is. There's just nobody to throw to. I think
Right,
Robinson
but-
had a good defense
No
because
one
the
to throw
Cowboys
the
defense
ball.
sucks. Yeah, I think Robinson and Neighbors could do much better with a different QB. They had a good game, but
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
service.
Robinson, if I remember right, kind of just came back from injury too.
Mhm.
Well, the thing is, if you have you know, a legitimate starting quarterback throw the ball to them, I mean that's a devastating a wide receiving core and quarterback combination. So, and that's going to be really hard to stop in the future. So, as soon as Daniel Jones departs, that'll be a much even more improved receiving core. And the sad thing is that Daniel Jones, even though it was just a pedestrian game, that's probably the best I'd seen Daniel Jones play in 2 years.
He just
Which
can't
is
get
not
in the
saying
end
a
zone.
whole
Is the
lot.
thing.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's any good. I'm just saying for Daniel Jones standards, he didn't completely shit the bed for a change.
You're
But
just trying to say find something nice to say about it. There's nothing nice to say about Daniel
Yeah.
Jones. People
Well, I
knows
mean, I was
that.
just-
Yeah,
it's
That's
just
why I'm
trying to-
happy that the Giants decided to pay him and stick their guns to him instead of Saquon Barkley.
yep.
That was that.
It was
That was-
asinine, as
that's so
as I've
stupid.
said so much.
That-
I was like,
that's
you
going-
pay Barkley, you don't pay Jones. Jones has done nothing.
But that's the
I mean,
whole
that's
thing.
going to
Is that
ruin the
you-
Giants franchise for 5
typically,
years.
you're not supposed to pay the running back. You're not supposed to. That's
Yeah, that
typically
was
what it is.
it.
When your quarterback is possibly the worst quarterback in football, possibly. I mean, Watson looks pretty bad too. Don't get me wrong here, but
And so does Deshaun.
mhm.
That's what you just.
That's what I
Or
said.
sorry,
That's-
you said Watson. Sorry, I was going
Yeah.
off first
Like,
name. My bad. My bad.
all right, you get one. But could be one of the worst. He's definitely one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And you go ahead and I mean, you've got
Yeah.
okay.
Especially
You-
when he
you're
won't
going with
change
him.
his system.
That's the whole thing is they've had high enough picks. They could have gone and gotten another quarterback. There's
Yeah.
no excuse now at this point, and it makes me happy that Brian Daboll has been, latched everything onto that
It
because
makes me as a Baltimore Ravens AFC North. I was like, okay, the Browns are going to suck. Great, we don't have to worry about them this division.
exactly same thing. I don't have to worry about the Giants. The Giants to me are that's another bye week. That's 2 extra bye weeks. I know I'm gonna get, and
Right.
especially when I know I can beat them. I don't have to worry about them at all. That just
Mhm.
that helps. Okay, I got 2 wins there. Ready, good to go.
Right.
Right.
Then you just got to come up with around 8 more, and you make the playoffs, which isn't horrible to do necessarily in this league.
Well, it's not going to be as easy because Washington looks good this year
Right.
if they
Yes.
stay healthy. The Fighting Dan
Uh-huh.
Quinn.
Yeah, historic offense though right now for Redskins.
I'm not going to. Well,
It's
not gonna really
early,
Stay historic.
and I want to see
Well, they're
how
historic
Jay
right now.
is going to respond when he gets his first big hit.
Yes, that's going to be the
Because
key.
he has not been caught yet, and that the same thing happened to RG3. He was looking great, was
Yes.
able to stay away, but the minute that he got hit,
Well, that was more injury.
it slowed him down.
Once he got
Yeah, it
knocked
slowed
out with
down.
an
He got
injury,
injured.
yeah, that's different from just a big hit to me. If you get injured, yeah, that's something to see how he comes back from it. But just a big
No,
hit,
but
that's football.
the
If you
problem
can't
though
do
is
that,
the
then
way
you don't need to be in the league.
the problem though is the way Jaden Daniels plays, or at least the way he
It's
played
the
at
same thing with
LSU.
Anthony Richardson, and we talked about that in our draft thing. His play style does not condone him to be healthy.
Right.
Neither does Lamar.
and neither does Jaden
And it's a
Daniels.
prayer every week that he
So-
doesn't get injured.
Yeah, but at least the
So-
Colts have Mr. Joe Flacco to come in, especially when they're playing the Steelers, because he can beat the Steelers
Yeah.
easily.
Very
Yeah,
I was
true.
telling
I was like,
people-
oh, it was a Flacco
I was telling
signing.
everybody, people up here were down in the dumps about it, like, oh, the Steelers suck again. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you actually, if you wouldn't have heard Anthony Richardson, you would have had a chance. But the minute Joe Flacco came in that game, you guys had no chance
Right. Your
whatsoever.
arch nemesis, man.
Yeah, I mean
against
that was the
Steelers.
worst. That was the worst thing they did was knock out Anthony Richardson from that game.
After that,
Mhm.
Flacco was like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. Just torched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Golly, what was he again? Yeah, 2 touchdowns, 16 for 26, coming in
Joe
relief.
Flacco's just playing with I don't give a fuck old man strength now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is. It's like I'm playing with how I don't give a fuck anymore. Like I'm surprised he's not out there with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Like he's got like that old Jake Cutler energy right now.
And God, Joe Flacco. Let's see. He is now 39. Will be 40 in January. Man.
Fuck, I didn't know I was older than Joe Flacco. Shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Motherfucker was Baltimore.
Only by a
Savior.
couple months. Only by a couple months.
Yeah, but still.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
It happens.
But let's see, looking at the games that happened this weekend.
Let's get to our teams, I think, before we start
Okay.
breaking down other teams.
Exactly. And I was going to go throw it next to Cincinnati, Carolina. Be able to fend off the Red Rocket.
Jeff's got to win.
34-24. They made it a little dicey there at the end, but
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I
The
think
Red
Bengals
Rocket
were
almost got
able
his
to hold
comeback
on.
revenge.
yeah, I think the main thing, or I mean, a couple things that stood out to me in this game. One was the first drive of the game where the Panthers just completely drove down the field, had first and goal at the 2, and came away with nothing. They had second and goal on the 1, incomplete pass. Third and goal on the 1, Chuba Hubbard, nothing. And then Chuba Hubbard with nothing again on fourth and goal. So I think that was a pretty shocking way to start off the game, considering they could not stop the run, or haven't stopped the run all year, and didn't really stop the run the rest of the game, with the exception of that one drive. I think it was big. It was definitely big having T. Higgins back in the lineup, fully healthy again. He had a great game and took a little bit of the load off Jamar Chase and allowed us to hit Eric All as well, our tight end. And then again, T. Higgins with 6 catches in that game. One thing that I was also really pleased to see is, surprisingly, for up until this game, the majority of the carries have been going to Zach Moss as opposed to Chase Brown, when we were led to believe that was going to be a split committee between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this game, they each got 15 carries, and Chase Brown got 2 touchdowns as well. So
and one on a decent run too.
Right, and so I liked how they split the time between running backs there. I thought our offensive line looked really solid. Now, granted, it's a pretty horrible Carolina Panthers defense, but at least they didn't give up a sack. So I thought from an offensive standpoint, we're definitely clicking again. I still think there's a lot of holes defensively, and I mean, I think at this point we're probably squared away to beat, bad, lesser to bad teams like Carolina, but when you're going against top competition, I still don't see how we can compete at that.
Well, how much do you think Adam Thielen's absence helped y'all too?
None. I mean, I just don't. I don't think he's that big of a factor anymore. I mean, to me, Deontay Johnson and Xavier Leggett, I mean, those have been actual great receivers, or great
Leggett has
pickups.
looked really good. He's been really surprising.
Yeah, and I thought it was a reach in the first round for the Panthers, but he's looked great so far. And then again, getting Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh, he's been a great addition too. So
he's found a home there.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I think that Carolina did pick up some wide receivers, and then again, Andy Dalton is certainly not the savior of this team, but he had to come in to play to make Carolina a competitive team, in which, by and large, they are, since he's started for them. So
that's much more. Yeah,
a win's
people
a
aren't.
win, but we still have some serious issues.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Jeff. Unfortunately. Yeah, well, I don't want to get too much ahead, but I think its run defense is going to be. Like I said, I mean, Hubbard to me is an okay back again, kind of like Singletary area, but he got 100 yards and looked like an all-star. So I mean, the Cowboys' run defense and the Bengals' run defense, for whatever the reason, just not good this year.
Well, I mean, the Bengals' defense was, or run defense rather, was subpar at best, even fully healthy. And then when you have injuries on top of it, you're not really going to be able to stop anybody. So I'm not surprised in the least, really, with how horrible they've been so far. And frankly, I don't see it getting a whole lot better.
Yeah, fair enough. One of my surprises on that defense, though, for you is Logan Wilson. I feel like he's been way more out of position this year and have to make like comeback tackles, where last year he was finding the holes better. Maybe the line's looking out for him when they go to the second levels. Or offensive lines are looking out for him when they go to the second level, I should say. But it just seems like he's not as dominant this year as he has been in the past.
I agree with that.
I mean,
I don't feel like I've heard his name or anything really about him all season long.
Yeah. So, I mean, he used to be getting 10 tackles or whatnot a game.
I mean, he got 10 tackles against Carolina. I mean, I haven't had any.
That's Carolina, though.
Right, but I mean, I really haven't had too many issues with Logan Wilson so far.
Fair enough. I mean, he's not as bad as some of the linebackers for the Cowboys. Like I joked about last year, I was looking at tape on one linebacker, and he just walked himself out of the play. Just walked himself right off the tape screen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, I think, other than Trey Hendrickson, you can make the argument that Logan Wilson has been your second best defensive player. I mean, again, that's really not saying a whole lot considering this defense right now, but I haven't had any issues with Logan Wilson so far. I mean,
fair enough.
I think he's been doing just fine.
Gotcha.
But what about your Baltimore Raven?
Yeah, to me, the surprise of the week, in all honesty. But I think you might have said it right, Jeff. The Bills hadn't been tested, and they went against a better team. I'm just really happy we're not like 1-3 right now, or 1-4, or 1-3. Excuse me. That's what we'd be. We can be 1-4 when we go against the Bengals, right, Jeff? But I mean, got everything clicking in that game. Crazy good. Kyle Van Noy looking like a world beater again.
That was the worst Buffalo's defense has looked in years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The people they've lost over the last couple of years, you could see it. I mean, they haven't looked great this season at all, but that was just a shellacking. You took him out behind the woods.
I mean, Derrick Henry again with another 199-yard performance, just whooping it. Like right now, the Ravens have the top two out of the 10 rushers, or excuse me, have 2 of the top 10 rushers in the NFL. Let me say that better. They have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and like number 1 and number 8, I think, on that list. So, like, goodness gracious, they've been running over everybody lately, and I'm loving it. Old school Ravens ball. Now, our defense still needs to improve. There's been some questionable, like, why is that guy open? Or why are we putting Nate Wiggins on CeeDee Lamb, for example? That's not a good matchup for that rookie. He hasn't proven that he can handle that just yet.
Your secondary hasn't been as dominant as it has been in past seasons. That's for sure. But some of the losses that you've had, even in your linebacking core, is where I'm seeing a lot of problems. I mean, I kind of expected that with you not you starting rookies out in the secondary, but
Oh, we're not really starting rookies in the secondary. We got Humphreys still, and Stevens is out there. Hamilton is a sophomore, and you got Malik.
We got Wiggins out there, who is.
Yeah, Wiggins is the rookie, and he comes in there occasionally, but he's not necessarily starting, I wouldn't say.
Right.
But
sorry, my apologies.
No worries. Yeah, but yeah, they did put him on like CeeDee Lamb for like I think this part of the second half of that Cowboys game because they had such a big lead. And in one of them, he came back and held Lamb for the fumble that he made on about the 1 yard line. Not to rub anything in, Porter. But then another time it's pass interference and it's all on the one for the Cowboys. But so I mean, Wiggins isn't looking good right now as far as the draft pickup goes. But hopefully he'll improve. Like I said, I love it when people prove me wrong and I talk bad about them, especially when they're on my team.
I thought.
But yeah, I mean, I think the pass defense was also better.
You're still not allowed to root for Lamar Jackson. You're not allowed. It's not allowed.
Fair enough. I'll root for Derrick Henry then. King Henry it is. Oh,
I was just going to say one big play in that game. I thought when it looked like Buffalo might be able to come back in the game when it was 21-10, for whatever reason, the Bills decided to do trickeration and do a direct snap.
Weird flea flicker.
Yeah, to Curtis Samuel, and then they give it back to Josh Allen. Then he gets hit, and then he fumbles, and then it's recovered by Hamilton, and then
to me,
score a touchdown. And
I thought maybe he might have had a concussion on that play too, Allen. So I don't know if who he paid off, but I thought he might have had a concussion. So hopefully he's not going to turn out like Tua, where it's like, you got to just go back in.
By Buffalo, and I thought that was
maybe especially their offense was moving pretty steady in a regular pace. So I didn't see the need for the trickery too either.
And then after that play, it seemed like Baltimore's defense was in the backfield before Josh Allen even got the ball.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo did nothing to run.
I say Kyle Van Noy got 2 sacks, I believe.
It was untouched at the end of the game. They as soon as the ball was hiked, they're running full sprint at Josh Allen, and no one ever touched them.
Yeah,
they had good line penetration. Like I say, our defensive line's still getting the penetration, but like you said, it's our pass defense that's going to be the make or break.
Your linebacker came off the left side, and he lined up right there and just sprinted right at Josh Allen and chased him down, and no one even tried to block him. Like there was no one there. There was no pickup. It was like the offensive line just didn't know what the job.
Or do you think the running back can step into the right hole?
Maybe? The running back wasn't even back there. He was all by himself in the backfield.
Yeah.
And it just was like no one even checked over to stop him. He just had a full rein right at your quarterback. I couldn't believe that. I was like, that's what I texted you guys and said this Baltimore pass rush is insane. Because they were after it. But Josh Allen would catch the ball back in the shotgun, and the minute he had the ball, he was running for his life. Like he didn't even have time to look anywhere. He was already running the minute the ball got to him.
Yeah. He was in a scramble drill pretty much the entire night.
Another, I think, a key piece that I really like for Baltimore is
when you hold Josh Allen under 200 yards, you've had a good night.
Everyone talks about, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and rightfully so, but this Justice Hill, when he's fully healthy, he is such a weapon just as a receiver out of the backfield. I mean, he had a phenomenal
when they felt fine keeping him and letting Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins walk.
Exactly, because he has the ability to catch the ball in the backfield, unlike those guys do. And there's a lot of talk. Well, Justice Hill's had the injury.
Derrick Henry's been more involved in the passing game for the Ravens too than he ever was in Titanland.
Well, I mean,
like you said, Justice Hill's got 6 catches, 78 yards out of the back with a touchdown receiving, then 4 rushes and 18 yards. And he had a good night overall.
Right.
Things are going well.
Not to mention, he can pick up a block too. So
Even though your pass defense really sucks, Josh.
This makes me want to
excuse me,
understand what happened in the Raiders game even more now.
What,
Like
what do you mean?
How did we let the Raiders beat us?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Those
that's
are like
the dumbest.
I have
loss
more
I've ever
questions
seen.
now for that game.
Garmin magic is what it was.
Yeah.
Something.
And
Max
again,
Crosby,
no
that
pass
man again.
defense. No pass defense.
Yeah.
That's going to.
Yeah.
That's the
Maybe
problem.
we finally figured
you
some of our
have,
pass defense out, but
you
like you
you
said,
have
I
a
mean,
great
there's no big name
safety.
receiver on the Bills. Like I said, was it Kincaid? I think was the number 2 tight end we were looking at in all of Pro Football Focus, and
Yeah, Kincaid.
and then Shakir was like the number 1 wide receiver. You're like, who?
I picked him up in fantasy, and I've actually been starting him because the guy's been getting the ball. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, fantasy wise, it's hard to argue, but it's still like there's no big name receiver. There's nobody you necessarily have to worry about, like a CeeDee Lamb, for example,
no, this is
on that
basically
Buffalo side anymore.
It's kind of like what Green Bay did to Aaron Rodgers for so many damn years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Well, in between the Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams.
well,
Yes.
Buffalo had to get rid of Stephon Diggs. They just could not go on.
And their offense does look better. I'll give them credit. Even it's more fluid, more open. Like I said, the weird
James
trickery
Cook is
call I still
looking
don't
good.
understand.
Yes, and getting James Cook involved, more in the running game. I think that was a mistake on Sunday night. Now, granted, it didn't help them getting down.
Well, yeah, they had to.
quickly,
they had to
but
abandon the game plan, I think, going in and make James
you
Cook
have
more of a
Derrick Henry
passer.
running for an 80-plus yard touchdown right at the beginning of the game.
The longest touchdown run in franchise history, I think.
Jeez,
Or
yeah.
was it second? It may have been second, excuse me. But yeah, Derrick Henry had a heck of a run, like 90, 87 yards, something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 87 yards for Derrick Henry on that run.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Justin Tucker also looking okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Finally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, finally.
Right.
He's been off a little bit this year for the most accurate kicker.
Yes.
Very, very true.
All right. So what other games stood out to y'all this weekend?
Well, the only other one I jotted down just put a big, big smile on my face.
Let me guess.
Tampa Bay stomping a mud hole in Philly. Winning 30
That's what I was thinking about. Yep.
They were all over the
mud
Eagles, and the Eagles just looked lackluster, and I'm being very kind saying that.
Yeah. Like I said, I was like telling Jeff about that game. Like they didn't have their 2 top wide receivers, but
they were down 21, 28, nothing. I mean, it was pathetic. They could not get anything going. And Tampa Bay's defense is not the best in the league. They're not.
No.
But they just completely shut down Hurts.
Yeah.
When it was 24-0, I believe. When it was 24-0, I believe I saw the graphic to where Tampa Bay had like 266 yards of offense and Philadelphia had 0. And that was fun to see. And Saquon, he actually had, what I don't get is why he only had 10 carries in that game. Again, it could be just a function of, them being down so quickly, so early. But I think Jalen Hurts is starting to get exposed a little bit. He had that great magical run when he took the Eagles to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a couple years ago. But to me, I just don't trust the guy at this point to make quality decisions. He makes too many mistakes. And we saw this even in college too. You can be accurate, but if you throw interceptions, especially in inopportune times, it's going to bite you in the ass. And I'm seeing the same Jalen Hurts that I saw last year, not the 2022 Jalen Hurts. And to me, this offense is not a whole lot different.
That one.
This is not a whole lot different with Kellen Moore than it was with Brian Johnson.
And that's what I was going to bring up. Oh, okay. is it just Jalen Hurts or is this really Mike Sirianni? Is he really the problem here? Was he just a flash in the pan? And has he been figured out?
I think there's a lot of it. And, let's say if the Eagles are 2-5 somehow, his ass is getting fired. He's not going to make it through.
He might be fired in year at the rate the Eagles are going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the same thing to Doug Peterson. He brought him their only Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, they have a bye week this week. So it's probably needed. The problem is
I'm
you got to play
A-okay
13
with that.
straight. Yet, I don't know if I'd like to have a bye week that early because then you got to play 13 straight games.
No, you never want to have the early week 5, 6 bye weeks. Those are terrible. You never want those. You want to have that week 10, 11.
10, yep.
That's perfect. That 9, 10, 11, yeah, that's right about where you want it. But at the same time, you got to play the schedule you're given. That's the way it goes, which we'll be talking about the schedule later because I've got some questions about some of the games that are coming up here this coming week.
One funny thing, I was just going to say one funny thing about the Eagles is that they were arguably the worst 10-1 team in the history of football, and then they lose their last 6 games of the season, and they still have to deal with the second place schedule. So I think that's more icing to the cake there. I just hate to see the Eagles suffer so much.
It's enjoyable to me.
I enjoy everything about them suffering.
Not necessarily about the games, but a couple of quick points I wanted to make, and one question I wanted to ask. I've kind of gotten into part of it with Jeff, but the now infamous text message from Caleb Williams to his punter saying, "You're going to be great, but don't worry, you're not going to punt much." The Bears are now currently second most in the NFL with punts at 12. Now, luckily, the punter is really, really good for the Bears, so it hasn't hurt them too bad. But they've got
Tory
12
Taylor,
punts and 3 touchdowns for Caleb Williams right now.
Yeah, there's a reason why he was a 4th-round pick, and that dude for Iowa, when they went like 8-4 last year with scoring no points, he was honestly, truly their best player. As a punter, he was that good. And I think Tory Taylor's already shown that he's one of the best punters in the league. So Caleb is probably thankful that he has him because
Caleb Williams is just getting humbled like we all knew he would. He was going to come in and tear up the entire
30 QBR rating. Yeah.
Just like none of these guys came in. The only one that's in here tearing it up right now is Jaden Daniels. But we talked about that earlier. We don't know if that's going to prolong just because of his style of play and the build of him. I mean, he's just not the biggest guy out there and to play the way he is. That's why I think Lamar Jackson's been able to weather the storm better because he's a big, solid guy.
Yeah.
And that helps him when it comes down to it. Not the biggest. No, I mean, I'm not saying that he's like Derrick Henry by any means, but as far as a quarterback who runs that way,
he's big and
solid. Yeah, I mean, so I think that's helped him.
Yeah, there was somebody joking about, I think it was like 220 pounds they were saying for Lamar Jackson, 300 pounds for Derrick Henry, another 250 for Patrick Ricard. Just like pick your poison.
Exactly. And so, I mean, Caleb Williams, we knew that he was getting humbled up really quick because he just came out. He's been conceded since he was at Oklahoma and came in as a rookie and beat Texas. That's just how he's been even before then in high school. He's just been that guy. You knew he was going to get humbled because now you're playing against the best players in the world. So it's no surprise. We just need to see how is he going to rebound from it. Is this going to affect?
Very true.
Is he going to be seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold and have to go through 4 or 5 teams before he finally sits around?
Yeah.
Or is he going to be able to kind of figure it out and actually start progressing with his career? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that like you alluded to, ever since he came in that OU Texas game, he's been deemed the #1 overall pick since that point. And yeah, it was about time that he got humbled. And also too, I don't think the Bears franchise
They're not doing him
themselves
any favors.
didn't do him any favors with putting him on Hard Knocks and comparing him to Michael Jordan. Also, too, I think you have
There's no offensive
a
line
coaching
in Chicago
staff.
either.
Well, there's no offensive line, but also, too, I don't think you have a coaching staff, or at least on the offensive side of the ball, that knows what the hell they're doing.
All they did was try and give him receivers. And DJ Moore, I think, is a very good receiver. They went and
Rome
brought Keenan
has
Allen
been
in
okay
to give
too.
him a seasoned vet to help out with. And as you mentioned earlier, they have no line block. It doesn't matter how good your receivers are. If the guy can't get time to throw it throw them the ball, it doesn't matter. You can't be running slants and hooks the entire game and expect to win.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I think
also,
it was
too,
looking at something. It was like 5 for 9. Caleb Williams was for 39 yards. So it's very apt you're saying hooks.
On top of that, DeAndre Swift has been way underperforming. He has not helped in any way to get the run game going for Chicago to actually free up maybe some play action, be able to get Caleb some more free open spaces. Swift has looked terrible. He's been bad.
Yeah.
yeah.
Bears are the Bears again.
Well,
Stop
also
there.
too, a player that's really underachieved, and I don't know if it's just father time kicking in, is Keenan Allen. He has not shown up for the Bears at all this year. And again, I don't know if,
Or maybe he just didn't want to go play in Chicago and was pissed about the trade.
yeah, I mean that's
Everybody says he's a
possible.
consummate professional, but at the same time, you don't like where you went.
Subconscious
You're a little
will
bitter
play,
about it.
Yeah, I don't know. But also too, you do have Roma Dunze, but again, we've discussed about you can have as many wide receivers as you want, but if you don't have an offensive line, then it's all for naught.
Very true. Very true. Okay. Well, my next one is kind of a question. Can we call Trevor Lawrence a bust now?
No.
I mean, he's thrown over 200 yards one time this year. I don't think he has a no winning record in his career yet with the Jaguars. Now, granted, he had Urban Meyer to start with, so we kind of gave him a year there. His current QBR is 44.
Yeah, I mean, look, he
Let's
hasn't.
see this up real quick. Yeah.
To me, he's on the cusp.
Yeah,
he's
an
on the
84
cusp.
overall QBR, which isn't necessarily horrible, but
he's on the cusp.
but
Middle
he
of
was
the
coming
foot.
in to be
He's
white
rocking-
Jesus.
He's rocking back and forth. No, yeah, he was definitely sunshine from Remember the Titans when he was in Clemson. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Because he came in there right after Deshaun Watson and tore it up. More than Deshaun Watson does it himself.
Oh, yep.
Anyways, he's teetering on the edge. He's right there. I still think I'm still giving him the season before I say he's a full bust. Let's see. He hasn't started out well, of course. That's helping him teeter a little bit more toward bust, but I still think we'll know for sure by the end of this season. We're going to know for sure. And I think at this point in his career, at the end of the season, if they end up, being last place, he plays terribly. Yeah, it's a bust. He's a bust now, and you just paid this bust as one of the top tier quarterbacks, which they're going to have to stick with him because they're married to him now with the money. So
Yeah, I
No one's
think
gonna
he
take
could be a
that
decent
contract.
one, but he could not be the center of that offense.
Well,
no,
I
that's
think
what they need to figure out.
I think everyone was projecting him to be a Hall of Fame quarterback before he even took a
Exactly.
snap, and then
That's
you
the
had
same thing with
and then
Caleb
you had
Williams, unfortunately, where you just put these stupid pressure on these kids.
yeah, and then he wasted his rookie year with Urban Meyer, so basically he had to start over in 2022.
Yeah.
Came back and took the
And he's had
Jaguars to
3
the
different
playoffs,
offensive
and
coordinators at least.
yeah, and they won a playoff game in that 2022, and they started off 2023 8-3. Then we saw him get injured in that Monday night game
against the Bengals, and I think they rushed him
Yeah.
back way too soon, and he was not the same health wise after that. And again, I don't, I look. Yes, Doug Pearson won the Super Bowl, but that's becoming a thing that happened a long, long time ago. And I think there's a lot of I think there's a really good chance that Doug Pearson has lost that locker room.
I
Don't see
mean,
that problem.
he lost the locker room in Philly too, so that's one
Right.
of the main reasons they got rid of him.
Right. And
Mhm.
so I think it's happening again because I for
Definitely
whatever because
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, with historically what's happened with Doug Peterson is when things aren't going well, they usually don't get better. And I think we may be starting to see a little bit of that here in Jacksonville. And then unfortunately for Lawrence, he's been on the receiving end of some pretty well, I'm not going to say Doug Pearson's a bad coach, but some dysfunctional locker rooms to say the least.
Definitely. When you have that many coordinators, you're not doing anything for success for your quarterback. And that comes down to the organization of not putting any measures in place, putting personnel in place to give a nice, steady foundation for your quarterback to come in and, flourish and learn and have a good pairing of an offense coordinator or quarterback's coach with that quarterback to help them build that relationship, build that trust, and build that continuity. So
Right.
to me, it's more of the organization failing him. And maybe Trevor Lawrence does need to just have another run somewhere else because really, besides that run with Blake Bortles where they went to the AFC Championship and got knocked out by Brady, Jacksonville hasn't done anything their entire existence. And that comes down from the top.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, even ownership.
Yeah, and so you've had the two AFC, let's see, 2 or 3 AFC championship games, but yeah, just so random. You had those decent teams or solid teams rather under Tom Coughlin in the late 90s, and then you did nothing, and then you had that random, like you said, the Blake Bortles, and then nothing after that. So yeah, I mean, it's when it's that long, it's definitely an organizational issue, just like it's been for Dallas, just like it's been for
Same just here, kind of
Washington.
Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. Dallas, Washington, Cincinnati, up until 2 years ago, the same shit.
Saints years until Peyton and Breeze took him to the glory land.
Yeah, exactly. Saints are another team. Detroit
before
until-
Dan Campbell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Patriots before Bill Belichick.
By and large, yes.
You can argue
well,
before
I'd
Tom
say-
Brady, but
Or I'd say pre-Parcells, because at least Parcells did good for the.
yeah, they did go to a Super Bowl back
Super
then.
Bowl.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about these coming week's games. Baltimore, Cincinnati.
I gotta hate you this week, Joe.
The
No
trash
offense.
talking will begin. You two will be at desk just throwing chips at each other. I mean, different opposite sides of the
I was
bar.
gonna say, yeah, we're gonna be on opposite sides of the bar.
The thing is, you can't really shit talk when you're 1-3, and I think our offense is
Yeah, you
really
can't start much
clicking.
when you're 2-2 either.
Our offense is really clicking, and I think I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, I think they'll be able to go off on this Baltimore pass defense because it's one of the worst in the league. The issue I have is the fact that I don't see how in the hell we're going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry from running the
I was
football.
about to say, I'm like, the game plan's got to be to keep the run game going. Ideally, not bust super long runs because you want to stay on the field with that run game to keep Burrow off, like you said, because our secondary is. You got the weapons to beat it, so it's vulnerable. But if we can keep Burrow on the bench and ride the run game, Ravens got this one in the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think Baltimore's going to take this one, and they're going to run right through them. Because I don't think there's any way Cincinnati can stop Derrick Henry. No way.
Or Lamar Jackson. I kind of and
the run game overall is, like we said, the run defense for the Bengals in 4-2 this year has just been horrible, and I don't see it changing necessarily.
Right, and just like last year whenever they play the Ravens, we had no answer for. We didn't even have an answer for Gus Edwards. So how are we going to have an answer for Derrick Henry? So I can't envision a scenario to where the Bengals are going to be able to win this game. I just cannot envision it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm right there with you. I think the Ravens should take this game just because of that run ability they have. And like I said earlier, they've got 2 of the top 10 rushers in the NFL right now with Lamar and Derrick Henry.
Exactly. And
then
looking
Sunday night.
oh,
Dun, dun, dun,
Could
dun.
be the worst Sunday night football game all season. I'm going to say it right now. It's going to look like 2 monkeys trying to hump a football.
Yeah.
Dallas.
I'm kind of thinking the Steelers are going to go up like 10 points on the Cowboys pretty quick, and then it's going to get to be a game after that.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I looked at tickets to go to this game, and it was 500-600 seats, nosebleeds. So yeah, definitely not going. I'm gonna watch this game here, and my son's soccer practice is actually now a game. Now we'll be playing the other Catholic school in our parish, over just down the road. So, but they moved all the
rivals, huh?
They moved the game up from 6 to 7 to 3:15 p.m. My wife goes, "Oh, they moved up. I wonder why they did that." I go, "Because the Steelers are playing the Cowboys."
True.
Yes,
yeah. The game's on Sunday night, so
yes. I would like to say the Cowboys are going to win. I don't know. Maybe at home they might come out and surprise me. Dak may have a great game. Pittsburgh's defense has looked good, but they got torched by Flacco and the Colts last week, as we were talking about earlier.
That would be
CeeDee Lamb. They have no one to guard CeeDee Lamb. That's the thing. They don't. And even if they do go after him, they're going to leave Brandon Cooks wide open. I'd say they leave Jalen Tolbert. He can't catch.
Well, Cooks is out now is the problem.
Cooks is out. I missed that.
Yeah, so Brandon Cooks. So this is a controversy that came down earlier this afternoon. Basically, Brandon Cooks has a knee infection, and he'll miss at least this game and perhaps the next one.
Yeah.
And so what's really odd about it is that Brandon Cooks typically has a personal doctor inject platelets into his knee, which is common for a lot of his players. He stayed behind in New York, and then for whatever reason, his personal doctor was not available. He had a different doctor inject those platelets into his knee. They got infected, and so now he is out for this game. So
do that, doc.
The issue, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So now the issue is, I think you are right. They cannot stop CeeDee Lamb. The issue is, who the hell else is going to step up on that receiving core? One good thing is that Jalen Tolbert has finally shown a pulse as a third-round pick this year. Ferguson has had a great start to the year, so those guys are going to have huge games. And I would say throw even guys down, or include guys like even Kevontae Turpin or Jalen Brooks. They're going to have to step up too.
I'm afraid Najee Harris is going to go off.
Well, he has the potential to do it just because of how terrible the run defense has been. And they, as we said earlier, there's no Micah Parsons. There's no DeMarcus.
DeMarcus Lawrence was one of your more underrated run defenses guys.
Was.
I mean, Micah Parsons, just because of his frame's not necessarily a great run stopper, but he could tackle you. Demarcus Lawrence could actually get his body in there and plug up
Everyone's
holes.
like, why is Demarcus Lawrence? He's gone. He's gone. No, he's been stopping the run. That's what he's been doing.
Right.
He hasn't been the number one pass rush.
He's had to make up for Mozzie Smith and Micah Parsons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah. If Dallas wins, it'll be by a long field goal. We could possibly see a field goal battle between Boswell.
Boswell. Boswell and Anger.
Oh,
Sorry,
but yeah, that's
Aubrey.
one thing we didn't mention.
Yeah. I was like, how do I say his name again?
With
Anger's
with Aubrey.
That's why.
He's got more points
finally,
than several wide receivers in
Aubrey
fantasy.
finally
And
missed a field
More
goal.
points than Audrey. Yeah, he did finally miss a field goal in the Giants game, which kept it close at the end.
And
But-
the thing is, one thing, I'm not convinced on Najee Harris yet. I'm not sure how good he is.
I think he's having a bounce back year so far.
He
He's
did
been
nothing against
pretty.
the Colts, though. He
he's
did
been
nothing
terrible.
in that game.
You're not wrong there, but he's averaged about 100 yards a game, give or take, except for the Colts, I believe.
Let's see.
Let me pull his records up.
No, this year he's 68 carries, 228 yards, 3.4 average.
Well, that's per carry, not per game.
No, 60.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, no, for the year, 68 carries, 228 yards, 3.4 average.
Yeah, you're not understanding me. It's fine. I'm saying your average per carry is 3.7. And that's fine. That's not what I was saying.
No, what you were saying, you said he was averaging 100 yards a game.
Give or take, yes. Now, granted, I'll say the Colts is not a good one.
I know, but
269 is not bad for 3 weeks.
228, 4 games. I don't think that's.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a world beater. I'm just saying
doesn't work.
It's like when people were arguing me before the season about the Eagles might win the division. I was like, it's just because I think the other teams are that bad. But now the Redskins are looking impressive, so they might win the division.
No, but I mean, I think it's a winnable game for Dallas. It's going to be an ugly game for Dallas. I really think
an ugly AFC North game is what it's going to be. That's what it's going to come down to.
Right, and I think the key of the game will be is if Justin
Probably going to be
Fields
Rico Whittle. Or actually, never mind. This is going to be Zeke Elliott's turn to get most of the carries because Mike McCarthy can't figure out who he wants to be a starting running back.
No.
So Zeke will get most of the carries this time.
What I'm
Rico got him
interested
last
in watching is how is Tyler Guyton going to handle TJ Watt?
Oh God.
That's going to be
over there on the other tackle.
Matchup to watch.
That's the key of the game. They're
going to need to stop TJ Watt because if they're going to line him up on Guyton every single time. They're going to put him right there because he's a rookie. And Terrence
Steele, because Steele's not good either.
Steele's not the best right tackle, but he at least is seasoned and
he can get blown out.
He can get blown out, but at the same time, they're going to test the rookie. They're going to go after him. Tyler Smith's going to have to help out with him, or they're going to have to keep Ferguson over there to help brush him off. That's going to be Dak's going to be running like crazy because TJ Watt's going to be in the backfield.
So he's going to be Josh Allen from last game.
Yes. That I'm not looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to seeing 90 just all over for the whole game. It's going to happen.
Yeah, that's such a good
point. And there's going to be a lot of fucking holding calls on Tyler Guyton. Expect 60 to get his number rang multiple times for holding TJ Watt.
And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. One thing though is that what really kind of sucks for this game because when you have D-Law and Micah Parsons out against the Steelers' offensive line that's not very good. It would have been so nice to have them for this game, and because
even one, if you just had one of them,
just one of them exactly. Now you have none of them, but regardless, yeah, I think Dallas is going to win this game, though, albeit very ugly. I mean, I think this is kind of like a 17-13 kind of game.
This is going to be a nut check game, is what it's going to be. It's going to be a nut check game. How are you going to play? How are you going to play? You're the best player. How are you going to play?
But man, the crazy thing is, if Dallas wins this game, how crazy would it be for them to be 3-2 after the shit they've gone through this season? That would be amazing.
Oh, completely absurd. It would be completely. I mean, it'd be like, well, you beat the Giants and you beat the Browns. You beat probably the two worst teams in the league. So that's two of your wins right there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were able to get through Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh, who's definitely not where they have been in years past. They've been very lucky, I think, early in the season. But also talking Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson will not start a game unless Fields gets hurt. This is Fields' team right now. Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, Tomlin doesn't change Pittsburgh's their stability. They're not going to change just on a whim.
No, they're not going to go back to Wilson. Now, if it would have been like Wilson had been there as long as like Roethlisberger, he would get him back in there. But that's the thing, is that he has no loyalty to Russell Wilson whatsoever. None. There's no loyalty there.
Both these QBs just got there in the first. Yeah, this is both their first years.
Wilson will be finding a new job next season because he's not going to get any time unless it's blowout time or Fields gets hurt. Or unless Fields
may never play a snap again.
Just keeps losing.
Yeah.
They lose. If they go on like a 6-game losing streak, okay, then yeah, I can see Wilson getting a shot.
Or maybe Russell Wilson can slide into that comfy backup QB role.
Yeah, like Flacco did, just wait for that time and then come and own it. That's what he should do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or Russell Wilson may never play again.
He might not.
Yeah, like Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I want to bring up real quick is how in the hell did the Jets lose to Denver last week, 10-9?
That was a crazy game.
How that was possible.
Crazy game.
At one point, Bo Nix was 7 of 15 for -7 yards in that game. How is that possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and still won the game.
Right,
correct.
And Greg the leg with the missed kick is basically at the end of it.
Jets, Jets.
It's because of the Jets, and their offensive line is god awful. I mean, Aaron Rodgers got destroyed in that game. Breece Hall had 10 carries for 4 yards.
Breece Hall.
I think that's more Denver's got a decent defense this year.
Less than 1 point.
The offensive line. Because, I mean, we knew Denver's defense was going to be good going into this game. That was going to be where they hung their hat on.
No, but their offensive line's still not good. I mean, Breece Hall has not been able to run the ball at all. The only time that they've been successful running the ball is when they've utilized Braylon Allen as a change of pace.
34 yards on 8 carries, I wouldn't call that successful.
Not this week.
Not this week, but
really, really good.
5.
Well, Bryce Allen had a pretty good game last week.
Yes, he had a very good game last week. And
Breece Hall, not Bryce Allen.
Are you thinking of, Braylon Allen had a great week against New England.
Yeah, it's like they've alternated a little bit. New England, he had 11 carries for 55 yards. So, I mean, that was his best week so far.
But I think also, too, Aaron Rodgers wants to kill Robert Saleh. I think he hates Robert Saleh.
That's highly probable. Highly probable.
In the week before, when they scored their second touchdown and Saleh came in to give him a hug and Rodgers just pushed him
exactly.
Yeah, he's like, get off me.
And afterwards, Rodgers, which doesn't surprise me, it seemed like he was speaking in the third person, was like, well, what happened with that with you? And Saleh goes, he doesn't like to be hugged.
Right. Yeah. He was speaking in the third person. He wasn't talking about Saleh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, God.
It's the most Aaron Rodgers response ever.
It is. Well, as we're talking about the Jets, this brought about what I wanted to bring up for this week. The Jets in Minnesota, the first London game, 9:30 start this Sunday. And the Jets have their hands full. Minnesota, I have a feeling, is going to just stomp a mud hole in the Jets. Sam
Yeah.
Darnold's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
They're looking great. Minnesota, their defense is looking tough. And the main thing I wanted to bring up about this game is something that my father-in-law, who's an avid Jets fan, brought up to me at dinner tonight, that they're going to London. Both teams then traveling back. Minnesota has the bye week next week, but the Jets do not. And he's like, how is this schedule all set up that shouldn't both teams be on the bye week after going to London, then have to travel back? I was like, oh, yeah, I can see what you're saying there,
Yeah.
But
Both teams should be used to
typically
it by now.
well, they typically in the past they used to give both teams the bye week, but now
They did, but yeah,
what's
now it's like
happened
one team
what's
might have a bye,
happened
one
is
won't.
what's happened is that the frequency of these London and Europe games have increased, that they just can't afford to give every single team a
Yeah,
bye
and
week
now there's a
after.
German game and a Sao Paulo game this year.
The only good
Mhm.
thing for the Jets is that that New York to London flight isn't too bad. So
well, it's not
um,
terrible.
so
But yeah, they're going
Mhm.
to keep expanding into Europe because they're trying to get a European team, but I don't see how that's going to work schedule-wise until we
don't
find a faster way of traveling than flying.
exactly. And I guess one positive for the Jets is that I guess they will get an extra day rest, as that game will be on Monday night against Buffalo. But yeah, unfortunately, just with the frequency of European and international games, that you just can't give everyone a bye after those games anymore.
All right. Well, I think we've had a great conversation here in the Professional Football League, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to get into the college ranks here in just a few minutes.
That Georgia
All right.
Alabama team.
Mhm. All right, I
Okay.
gotta go get the wife a glass of water. I'll be back.
Okay.
Fair enough. I need a refill.
I'll also go ahead and get a riffle.
I found my remote. Finally found it. Hello. Can you hear me? Do. Hello? Caleb, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
I am now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Porter, we're gonna finish this shit tonight. Oh
Maybe.
goodness.
Yay.
There he is. We're getting worried about you. So we pretty much better go into this immediately once ever he's back.
Sorry, the wife was trying to distract me.
No worries.
No
It's
worries.
more you. Like it's 10 o'clock here, but I know it's 11 there.
10:47.
Yeah.
But yeah, while we were during that conversation, I was watching the Brewers hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th to take a 5-3 lead.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the first time in this wild card format where the team didn't start off 1-0. Well, actually, no. Never mind. Forget what I said. Series isn't over yet. My bad.
I feel where you were going with that. It's
You
hard
can
to
rephrase-
show there.
You can think about rephrase that for when we get the MLB later.
It's the first one this year that's actually going on. The Padres look like they're pretty well set.
Yeah.
Top
Knock
of
on
the
wood.
7th, they're up 5-2. Atlanta was threatening last inning, but yeah, they
Yeah,
just,
I mean, I'm surprised Atlanta even made it. Congrats
am
to them
too.
with all the injuries they had.
with all the injuries they had, it's very surprising that they made it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh man! All right, let's get it going.
All right.
We know what we're talking about. K-State, Oklahoma State, and Alabama, Georgia.
Georgia, Alabama. That's
I've got Georgia, Alabama, of course, is on here. I've got Texas beating Mississippi State, Notre Dame beating
That don't
Louisville.
matter.
Yeah,
Yes, it does. It's a number one team.
It's
Uh,
who
can-
cares? You know they're going to be Mississippi State. Mississippi State had no shot.
they're the number one team.
Yeah,
And
enjoy
you
while
got
it lasts.
Manning. Kentucky knocking off Ole Miss,
Yes.
That is one to talk about. Yeah.
and then Arizona knocking off number 10 Utah.
That works
Yeah,
for
that
me.
was an
I
interesting
watched
one,
all
too.
those.
Those are the ones that I have written down, and then I have the top 10.
That's
I've got a
perfect.
couple things about people moving around. Like Texas State isn't going to the Mountain West, while UTEP is, and UConn's talks to the Big 12 has stalled.
No, I can't stand conference realignment talk. Is
Yeah.
what it
Not to mention,
is.
I got to give my weekly Boise State running back some love.
Oh, Ashton Genty. Well,
Yep.
you can do that.
259 yards and 4 touchdowns against Washington.
Damn.
Yep.
God, has Washington just gone off the fucking deep end?
I knew
Yep.
that's going to happen. I was not.
Yeah,
shocked.
you knew they were going to. Yeah.
Oh,
They-
Or leaving.
after
and,
losing the 2 QBs and Bohr leaving. Yeah.
and then the entire team just transferring out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Or being in the draft.
5, 4, 3, 2. And welcome back from the break, as it's time to dive into college football. And
Mm-hmm.
crazy things happening as we're going into the new week here. We've got a new number 1. And
Well, it's not new number 1. They were number 1 last week.
No,
they weren't.
no.
This is new
No,
number 1.
Alabama. Alabama's the new number 1 now.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama, the new number 1 overall, dethroning Texas.
Which
But,
is stupid.
We'll talk about that here in just a minute. It is stupid. I agree. But we'll go ahead and start off with Texas, who got the 35-13 win against Mississippi State in their first SEC game. Not
Yep,
much talk
they-
about here. Arch
They,
Manning did.
they did what
those
they should have.
Ben Ewers is still out, but Arch is playing well. They did what they needed to do against an inferior opponent.
Yeah, Archie's doing okay. Don't get me wrong.
Right. The only thing that was frustrating about this game, if you're a Texas fan, is just a slow start. Jaden Blue did not have a good game at all, and then plus with the 2 fumbles. I mean, obviously Mississippi State didn't really cash in, but just the fact that you would fumble twice against Mississippi State, that was not good at all. Thankfully, they had Quintrevion Wisner step in. He was a really solid piece of that game. Isaiah Bond was great. Arch Manning bounced back after that poor performance against La Monroe. And then, so, I mean, it was an ugly start, but Texas got better as the game went on, and it's exactly what you wanted to see. And then, work on some things in the bye week. We'll see if Quinn Ewers returns for OU. My guess is that he probably will, if he's ready to go. So, I don't see them having any issues with OU whatsoever, but that's for 2 weeks down the road to decide.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, they did what they were supposed to. They handled their opponent. Even
Not
with
much
some
else to say about that.
slight mistakes.
Next game I brought up is a game that Caleb has no interest in, but Jeff and I think this is a pretty decent game. Number 16 Notre Dame winning 31-24 over number 15 Louisville.
Yes. So
Surprisingly, because Louisville, I feel like, has had Notre Dame's number though in the past.
They have. In the past few years, they've had Notre Dame's number and been able to unseat them when Notre Dame was rightfully ranked higher than what they would probably deserve.
Yeah, and it was
So,
still a close game,
this was a-
31-24. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
yeah,
This is a pretty. Oh no, I was just going to say this is a pretty sloppy game because I mean Notre Dame really came out looking great. I mean they were up 21. I mean Louisville got that quick score to start off the first quarter, but then Notre Dame just ran down the field all over Louisville, and then they got the turnover at the end of the first quarter to make it 21-7. Again, the thing that bugs me about this Notre Dame team is just we talked about it weeks upon weeks now, just the subpar quarterback play, and you don't develop a quarterback. You get these senior transfer quarterbacks, and Riley Leonard, yes, he was 17 of 23, but for only 163 yards. Their offense was just pedestrian, and really because of that, and they fumbled the ball twice, and really because of the turnovers and just the subpar offense, you let Louisville hang around in this game for much longer than you needed to. And Tyler Shough had a decent game for Louisville, allowed them to get back into the game. You know, I guess it was good that Notre Dame won, but you really just still can't feel too great if you're Notre Dame. And to me, if the season ended today, I wouldn't put them in the top 12 for a playoff berth.
No, I don't see Notre Dame having a chance really to get in that top 12, barring a lot of big losses in teams.
Barring losses, and you have to win out.
No, they absolutely have to win out. After that Northern Illinois loss, they have to win out to have a chance.
Yeah. Right. And
it
could be a situation. Yeah.
If they win out, it's still going to be in everyone else's hands if other teams losing to have a chance.
Right. Sure. And we could be in a situation to where, Notre Dame, USC at the final game of the regular season, that could be for a potential playoff spot.
I can see that happening easily. Next one I wanted to bring up, big upset right here. Number 6, Ole Miss losing to Kentucky 20-17.
Yeah, and that was one of the bigger surprises of the day for sure.
At all.
No. But this is twice now where you look in week 3, Kentucky nearly knocked off Georgia. They barely lost that game, 13-12. And after getting smoked inexplicably at home by South Carolina, this has been a completely different Kentucky team. Their defense was phenomenal against Ole Miss.
This is true.
So,
except Trey Harris, they didn't have an answer for him.
Well, no, but I mean, Trey Harris is a very experienced wide receiver and one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. So, with the exception of that Dart Harris combo, the Ole Miss Rebels really didn't do much of anything. They're also, there's issues, as far as their kicker, missing field goals. I didn't think their special teams were particularly good. Kentucky just has a knack for not turning the ball over and not making disastrous mistakes. I don't know if, and what's amazing to me though is that with that being said, even though they didn't make any mistakes, Kentucky got sacked 5 times in that game, and they still were able to win that game. Again, this goes back to some ways that Ole Miss has lost in years past, just unable to close out, whether it be missing a field goal or getting a holding call. They just cannot close out a game. And when you are going against such a good defense like Kentucky, you have to be able to make plays at the end of the game to close out. And they just screwed around for way too long in this game.
and it costs him. And I'll say this, as time goes by, Lane Kiffin is probably thinking, I've done all I could do for Ole Miss. It may be time for me to go.
To go ruin another franchise.
If I can't get this
Correct.
team to compete for a national title, I don't know if anyone can do anything at Ole Miss. So I think this is a loss for Ole Miss, not just for this season for playoff purposes, but I think this is a program-changing loss as to how it could impact their program.
I think you're getting a little close to the red button there again, Jeff.
Oh,
You're
he's
a little
hovering
close to the
right
red.
over it, right over it.
I know we always got to pull Jeff away a little bit.
Well, I mean,
he was
you can't
expecting to
lose
lose to the Panthers.
It,
it's a bad
you,
loss. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, this Kentucky team is looking much better since they turned around after South Carolina.
Sure, but at the same time, though, when you are looking to perhaps go into the playoff and compete potentially for a national championship, you can't have losses like this. So
well, that's why they're down at 12. They got knocked the full 6.
They're sitting at 12. They're sitting at the 12.
The committee's like, hey, prove something now.
Exactly. Yeah, and they'll have plenty of opportunities to prove it. Also,
the SEC's a conference that will let you prove and will let you fall on your face just as quick.
But also, too, let this be a lesson maybe to where you don't play jack-off state every single game out of conference.
No one's going to do that, unfortunately. I wish they would.
Well, another upset that I wanted to bring up is number 10 Utah getting surprised by the Arizona Wildcats. And Utah was looking really tough coming through. This one really surprised me. I didn't watch this game, but just seeing the score and just seeing this, I was like, what happened here? What? Utah's been
it's 23-10.
Exactly. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, this is a late night game. It is very frustrating to watch if you're a Utah fan because
2 interceptions from Isaac Williams.
Well,
not good.
It's because
and the run game's still there, but
for the 7th year now, Cam literally year number 7, Cam Rising is injured again. So Utah has to go back to the drawing board and play a quarterback that isn't ready to play. Isaac Wilson is a true freshman. If you've seen a picture of this guy, he looks like he's 10 years old out there. He has no business playing at this point, especially when you have a 24, 25-year-old guy that should be your quarterback. And the reason why he's 24, 25 still playing college is because of injuries, and that cost them this game.
And he will never have he will not have an NFL career. This is as far as he's going to go.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's no
injury history
NFL
alone.
Yeah, exactly. Injury history alone, and plus, I don't know if he has the physical.
I don't think he does. I think he's been a good college quarterback when he's healthy and can be in the game, but I never saw any tangibles that actually would get him drafted.
No, I don't think so either. But it's just sad for Utah that you have a team that
the Giants
arguably, yeah. Well, he could be much worse than Daniel Jones, but you can't. It's just really disappointing if you're a team like Utah. This is 2 years in a row that you've had to deal with Cam Rising. You felt like you were arguably the best team in the Pac-12 going into last season, and then you definitely felt you're the best team going into the Big 12 this season. You have to deal with the headache of playing without your starting quarterback, and this is what you're going to have to deal with. One guy to keep an eye out for real quickly is Arizona's wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan. That guy, he'll be a top 10 pick in this draft. He is that good of a wide receiver on Arizona. No one knows about him because he's on Arizona. He's on Arizona, and all of his games start at 9:30 or 10 o'clock on the East Coast.
10 p.m. Eastern time. No one
Yes,
watches.
exactly.
We didn't,
Exactly.
on the East Coast, we don't watch the Pacific time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Barely
you
anyone
can't.
does on the Central Time Zone either. So just watch out for that guy in the future. But yeah, the moral of the story is Utah desperately needs Cam Rising to come back, or else we're just going to see similar results like
Yeah.
this in the future.
State.
All right. And now, of course, got to save it for last. The game of the week.
Oh my
Georgia,
gosh, game of the
Alabama.
century.
Now,
12 million
This
viewers
game-
would agree, Jeff.
this game, I wasn't able to get started watching on it right from the get go because, of course, dad taking care of the kids. But I was keeping the score, look at the score, and
I mean,
7-0.
the first
14-0.
first half is basically
21-0.
Alabama
28-0.
steamrolling Georgia.
so at that point, I was like, why am I even going to turn this game on? This is a blowout. Don't care. So, sitting with the wife, watching
Yeah, we saw
one of our
Milrose.
shows, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and check, see what the score is. I'm gonna get a little update. And this was right at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And I'm like, wow, Georgia's actually made it close. Let me put it on my phone.
Mhm.
Gonna watch it here on my phone while we're watching our show. And what an amazing end to that game.
Yeah, just when you
Terrible
think Georgia
tackling
might
on
have it.
both sides. Terrible tackling on both
Well,
sides.
nobody does tackling anymore. Let's be honest. Even in the NFL,
No, but
nobody really tackles
At some
anymore.
point, though, either one of those teams should have ended those drives easily.
For number 2 and
tackle.
number 4 for the country to look like that on the defense,
It looked
that was
absurd.
and
But a very,
yeah.
very exciting game. And really, when Georgia went up 34, what was it? 34, 33.
It's so funny
33.
to see the Alabama fans just like almost crying in the stands. It was crazy.
Well, yeah,
and I mean, I can feel their pain coming
rightfully
back
so.
from like, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
Georgia's largest comeback in like 30 years is like 23 points or something.
All the
stupid.
trash talking that Beck was getting up to that point because he looked
Yeah.
atrocious in the first.
He
Atrocious.
had, 3 picks overall that game?
3 interceptions overall. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Kirby Smart to stay with his quarterback because, Carson Beck was awful in the first half. And what's
There
interesting
were a lot
is
of
they only
calls
threw,
on all social media to pull him out of the game. Like, why is he still in the game? Why are you still going with this guy?
Yeah.
right. And what's interesting is that Kirby
His draft
Smart,
stock's got to be affected by it.
not only did Kirby Smart keep him in the game, he doubled down on Carson Beck because they only threw 3 balls beyond 20 yards in the first half. Then they threw 14 in the second. Now, granted, you have to come back and make some big plays when you're down by so many points. But the fact that they were willing to go back to the well and confidently
Get it in
so
his
in
hands,
Carson
let
Beck.
him go do it.
And
I
it was
respect
almost
that. I
good
do
enough
respect
to.
that.
Well, this game,
It
too, I
was
think
almost
shows a
good enough
big
to
problem
come
for
back.
Georgia. Because as we know, Carson Beck is not as good as they advertised at the preseason. But we also know now Etzene is not as good either. So where's their run game? They don't have a run game. They don't really have a pass game. So how does Georgia's offense move the ball down the field?
I think Georgia still definitely has a pass game. I mean,
Well,
Alabama
yeah,
is
but
number 1 or number 2.
I'm not trusting that pass or that pass game from Georgia.
Yeah, but I mean,
Mainly
I
just
still
not trusting the quarterback, which is the main reason why.
True.
yeah, but I mean, I still think they have some solid wide receivers. But yeah, Carson Beck has been disappointing. But just on the opposite end of things, Jalen Milroe was absolutely incredible in this game.
Yeah,
And
this might
where
have been
was
his
this-
coming out game.
This season,
Where was this
has been like
Jalen
that.
Milroe? Where was this Jalen Milroe last year?
He was a
Like I
freshman.
said, I think this is his
Yeah.
coming out game. Yeah,
He was a
freshman.
freshman last year. He was just learning how to do it. It took him a little while, and it was Saban's last year, and maybe something with him and Pete DeBoer has worked. Maybe this is what he needed.
He had 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Well, he was responsible for nearly 100 yards of offense by himself. I think he threw something.
Yeah, he rushed over 100 yards and threw like 300 something.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy night.
And what I can't believe is how accurate Jalen Milroe was on those deep balls that he threw. That's something that you really. It's interesting because I was reading a statistic before this game started about how efficient Jalen Milroe was throwing the deep ball, even as soon as last year. But then he was bad in the intermediate passing game. This year, the deep ball is still there, and he's been able to figure out the intermediate passing game, which has allowed that Alabama offense to flourish. And then you have the legs on top of it to be able to run the football. One other note I want to talk about this game is that Ryan Williams, wide receiver on Alabama, who is 17 years old.
That's true.
He's arguably the best wide receiver in the country.
Yeah, he's up there.
I've never seen anything like that before in my life. The way he's been able to make moves like that as a freshman who's not even 18 years old. He has 16 catches for 462 yards this season. That is unbelievable. And you nearly get 200 yards against Georgia.
The vaunted Georgia defense. No, I mean, this defense is not the same.
No words for that.
As last year. They've lost players.
No.
So they got some more rookies back there in the secondary.
But still.
I mean, he carries weight. Don't get me wrong. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
With this win, Alabama was able to jump up from the 4th seed all the way to the number 1 seed.
Which is stupid.
To me, I agree. That was completely stupid. It was a knockdown. Yeah, they dominated the whole first part of the game. But it came down to a shootout at the end and terrible tackling.
Exactly, yeah.
Georgia
for them to I mean, 2 I wouldn't be necessarily mad about, but Texas should still be 1.
If Texas would have struggled more against Mississippi State, if it would have been a closer game, instead of winning 35-13, they won 21-13. Okay, I could understand that at that point. But it was not like they completely laid down against the competition. I think that this was a lot of Alabama favoritism by the committee.
Well, I'm not. Well, as most people should know who listen to us, I'm not the biggest Texas fan out there. As far as the rankings go, they should be 1 and Alabama 2. Yeah, like you said, I think there's some Alabama favoritism in there.
However, if things stay this way, because Texas doesn't play Alabama in the regular season, sets up a 1-2 matchup for the SEC championship, which I think is probably what they were wanting overall.
Sure.
Maybe.
And then so just looking at the rest of the top 10, Ohio State once again playing
still hanging there strong at 3, and Tennessee jumping up into the 4th seed, and
Georgia moving down to 5.
Yeah, and I think
going to be a team to watch.
Tennessee's good. Still can't believe Oregon's that high though. That offensive line they have. Just because they're beating nobody, they're beating up on nobodies. So, okay, congratulations to them.
Well, I think they have one of the best college quarterbacks in the country in Dylan Gabriel, and I think they have.
He's good, but that offensive line
on the Heisman watch.
Yes, I mean, definitely in the Heisman watch, and they have a great.
Like we joked about, like if your QB is scrambling all the time, he's not going to have a good day.
Well,
so once they actually face a decent defense,
yeah, but
they will now they're in the Big Ten.
Yeah, right. I think the best team they faced so far is Boise State, and Boise State almost beat them.
Yeah, but also too, and like Ashton Jeanty is he's my
Heisman watch right now. 259 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Right,
last game against Washington.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best players in the country. He's not going to win the Heisman, but
He's got 20 touchdowns right now.
I don't care.
No, but he plays for Boise State. That's the problem.
Yes, I know.
This isn't
he'll go to
NCAA
New York.
2005.
Yeah. I mean, he'll go to New York.
He might average 200 yards a game at this point.
He'll get to go to New York and have a nice vacation. But I think the test for both Oregon and Ohio State is when they play each other 2 weeks in Eugene, Oregon. I mean, that will be a monster
snooze fest.
game. What?
Snooze fest.
Ohio State and Oregon. How is that a snooze fest?
Be a match.
Ohio State's going to kill him.
How? No, you're crazy. You're buying into all the Ohio State hype that you've read, and
you're buying into the
ESPN
Oregon Dylan Gabriel
and the
hype,
Big
sir.
Ten Network. No, all you've read is about
As soon as they
State
lose,
the best
you're going to tell me
team
about the
money
big
can
red
buy.
button again.
No, you're just on the Ohio State train, just like every other.
I was on last year
person.
too.
Just hang. No, every person in the Midwest thinks two teams exist, and it's Ohio. No one else should even bother playing football. You're just like those people in the Midwest. I think Oregon wins.
Hey, sir, you take that back.
Oregon
I'm
wins.
Oregon already, but we'll have to revisit that one when it comes back to it.
But
a little closer time too. Oregon may lose before then.
Penn State at 7 after getting a big win over the Illini of Illinois, and that Illinois and really what's surprising, Illinois and Indiana both have really good teams this year.
Yeah, and I mean I was impressed, with Illinois at least defensively, in that game. We talked last week how Penn State really needed to come out and dominate and show that they're an elite team, and I didn't feel like they showed that. Now, granted, no one was watching that game because of Georgia and Alabama, but
12 million people were over there.
Majority of that game was Penn State 7-7 until Penn State got ahead 21-7 at the end of the game. But yeah, still missing something offensively with Penn State there. So that was a little bit disappointing to see, but a win is a win at this point. Miami at number 8. I don't know if y'all saw the end of
Welcome to Miami.
That is my surprise of the year is Miami.
Did y'all see the end of the game on Friday night?
No, I did not.
So I heard about it. Okay, yeah, it was a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Virginia Tech, they ruled on the field a touchdown. You couldn't tell whether or not the ball was complete or whether or not it was incomplete, but they called the ruling on the field a touchdown.
Yeah, they called touchdown so they can challenge it and review it.
Yeah, but there was nothing technically to overturn on the call, but you couldn't really see him catch the ball either. Of course, they send it to the ACC conference headquarters to review the call. And when you have Miami, who is your best chance of getting into the college football playoff, hell yeah, they're going to overturn the call. If the teams were flipped, Miami would have the call would have stood and Miami would have won the game. But that was a bunch of BS. I don't. But Miami still
it's
wins.
like a virtual call of the year so far,
and they're still undefeated. Missouri, they are number 9. They are coming off a bye week. They had just squeaked by Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago and just squeaked by Boston College. Somehow they're number 9 in the country, and I think that's more of a projection because their schedule is freaking awful. The only thing that they have
going as well too. They're set up for
an easy schedule. Yeah,
they're the most overrated team in the country, and again, that's based on schedule and based on the fact that Luther Burden is a first-round top 10 pick probably for Missouri, the wide receiver. They go to A&M on Saturday, and I have a feeling that A&M is probably going to win that game. That'll be 11 o'clock on
ABC, and
Caleb
Yeah.
is disagreeing with you.
A&M. They beat a waft of an Arizona Arkansas team whose coach is going to be fired at the end of the year. A&M's just not going to win this game.
okay, the issue is that you can't, if there wasn't a number 9 against Missouri or like next to Missouri's name, you would not put them anywhere close to the top 25 so far. This team barely beat Boston College.
If there wasn't a 9 by their name?
Correct.
You mean if they weren't ranked so high early in the season? It's probably more what you're aiming for.
No, what I'm saying is
because they were like 5 or 7 preseason.
No, if they didn't have the number 9 ranking against or next to their name, then probably everyone and their mom would take A&M to win this game. Missouri hasn't shown at any point this year that they even warrant a number 9 ranking. This team barely beat Boston College.
Boston College has proven to be a tough out, though.
They have been
decent.
very tough.
They're decent, but the Vanderbilt, though,
so is Bowling Green, surprisingly.
Vanderbilt is, other than Mississippi State, is the worst team in the SEC, and you barely beat them. It took double overtime at home to beat Vanderbilt. I'm just not sold on this Missouri team.
I'm not saying they're supposed to be number 9, but I just don't think A&M is going to win many games this year.
I think
A&M has looked pretty bad so far this season. So would I be surprised if they beat Mizzou? Because I don't think Mizzou's very good. No. However, A&M hasn't been great at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Mizzou stomped a mud hole in them as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a very close game.
And then 10th overall, you still have Michigan just still hanging around.
It's just surprising. I think it's just because they beat USC that they're still in this top 10 right now.
Reigning national champions, and they beat USC even though they lost Texas at home. That's the reason why.
Correct. Yeah. And we had the rematch of the national championship on Saturday. Michigan going to Washington, and I believe
will blow them out again.
Man, I don't know.
Highly likely.
I don't know what's that to me is a coin flip game. I'm not sure.
Now, so if Washington State does do some good state against them, are you going to have more respect for my boy Ashton Genty, who just went against them? And he got 259 and 4 touchdowns.
Well, this is the Washington Huskies are going against Michigan, not the Washington State Cougars.
Oh, sorry. We were talking about the other ones.
No, so Washington Huskies are going against Michigan for the rematch of the national championship game. Washington, surprisingly, is a 2.5-point favorite going into this game against Michigan. So,
that is interesting.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting game. Just real quickly, looking at the.
Well, I want to give some props real quick while you look through that to Kansas State, who had a great bounce back game. They're getting squashed by BYU against Oklahoma to beat Oklahoma State. And I don't understand why Bangan, he can't understand he's got to run the ball. He doesn't have a QB. He's got to trust Gordon to win the game.
He's too proud is what it is. Like as you get to BYU getting ranked, so good for them.
Yeah, surprising.
Yeah. And BYU went on the road to beat Baylor.
Who is that? Is it Arthur or something?
Down in Waco.
Yes.
Yeah. Avery Johnson, QB for Kansas State, jumping backwards. Had a phenomenal game, accuracy-wise and rushing-wise. It was good. You doubt it?
He was awful in the first half. He single-handedly nearly cost them that game. He threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever fucking seen in my life. He literally threw a ball, a 3-yard pass, 5 yards over the guy's head, and somehow Oklahoma State.
Yeah, when he's getting pressured.
Oklahoma State only scored 3 points after that.
It's because they don't know how to run the ball. They decided they were going to try to be a passing air raid offense instead of giving it to Gordon like they should have. That's why they only scored 3 points. This game probably should have been closer, but I mean, heck, I think he had a heck of a game, man. 259 yards.
Also too,
passing, 3
everyone
touchdowns,
wants to
your
talk
1
about.
interception,
Right?
6
Everyone
rushing
wants to
yards, 2
talk about
touchdowns.
Avery Johnson, not the basketball player, but the sunshine looking kid.
And not the little
Everyone
black
wants
guy.
to talk
Yeah.
about him. But to me, the key of this Kansas State team has been DJ Giddens. He is the most underrated running back in the country. He has 83 carries for 604 yards this season, and no one is talking about him at all.
That's a good point.
This guy's incredible, and everyone, talks about Kleiman and Avery Johnson
And Avery,
the defense. But really, not enough people are talking about DJ Giddens and this team. So, it was a nice bounce back win for K-State, but it did not look good in the beginning. And 2 weeks from now, they'll play Colorado, Dion's Colorado team in Boulder.
Get Travis Hunter coming at them.
Oh, Bucks.
Who might be the Heisman Trophy winner.
That's a good point, too. Travis Hunter, yeah.
There's a lot to talk about that.
The two-way player that he is.
And then I feel like most of the games, or when we were going through the top 10, we discussed most of the games of the week, and just locally having SMU curb stomp Florida State. Yes, Florida State has been god awful.
Cost them another recruit. Another recruit has said, "I'm not going to Florida State anymore." After that curb stomp.
And so, it was good to see SMU
handle that business.
Florida State. Yes, on the hilltop, and they go against Louisville this weekend on the road in Louisville, and if they get past Louisville, no more ranked teams the rest of the year. And who knows, maybe SMU has an outside chance of getting in the ACC championship game. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
No,
a lot of people thought
they ain't really facing Miami.
Right. And a lot of people thought that when they at the start of the year, when they had the slow start against Nevada, barely won, and then they looked horrible against BYU and lost, but that BYU loss isn't so bad anymore. And then when they benched Preston Stone and put in Kevin Jennings, that's been a huge quarterback change for SMU that's led to a lot more productivity on the offensive side of the ball. So watch out for SMU threatening for the ACC, and I think they have a chance of at least getting to the championship game or competing for the championship game next to Clemson and Miami.
Right.
And in other news, our alma mater, 0-4, coming off the bye week. And we can get their first win.
We started off so good in the first half against
that San Diego State game. I thought we had some promise.
That's what happens when you hire an Arena League quarterback to be your head coach. They should never. Do you remember Clint Dolzell at the Dallas Desperados, Porter?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And he's our freaking head coach who has no coaching experience.
You got to start somewhere, Jeff.
Yeah. And now we go to Southeast.
Yeah. I said. So looking to next week, like Missouri, Texas A&M might be the only game worth watching, in my opinion. Besides maybe some Boise State and some Ashton Genty highlights, so I can prove Jeff that he might actually be a Heisman winner.
He's a Heisman candidate. He'll get invited to New York, but he's not winning the trophy. But yes, he had a monster game against Washington State, as you alluded to, 26 carries.
He's had monstrous games, not just that game. He had 6 touchdowns the first game of the year.
He already has 13 touchdowns on the season. Only
13 before the 4.
All right, children, enough.
Only 4 teams in the country.
Yeah. Well, let me change the subject then. Yes, thank you, Jeff. You proved my point. But UTEP is moving over to the Mountain West. However, Texas State will not be joining them as initially thought they would. They're going to stay in the Sun Belt. And UConn talks to the Big 12 have stalled. So maybe they're not moving over.
Conference
And they're
leader,
going
like,
to the Big Ten.
just tell
Maybe.
me what it's
Although there is
all-
supposedly a partnership to have some Big 10 and SEC play some games against each other coming up
until
that they're
the-
working on.
Yeah, but until the SEC starts playing 9 conference games, and that's not
True.
Well, I think we've hit everything we can here in college here. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back in just a moment. We're going into Major League Baseball postseason. All right. If you guys are ready to go, we can go right into it.
Nope.
Padres
I need a break.
Go for it. Padres just won.
Woo!
5-4.
Oh, I didn't know the Braves made it that close at the end.
Braves got 2 runs in the top of the 8th.
Oh, yeah. Harris had a home run.
The Padres would get the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish that they weren't
Yep,
playing
yep.
right now. I wish that
That
series
Padres game
happened.
was crazy. Took all I could not to yell if the Braves hit that 2-run home run in the 8th to make it 5-4.
We were just
I
talking
wish
about
that Padres Dodgers though. I wish that was just a potential NLCS series, not an NLDS series. But
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I to me, I think. Well, we'll talk about this in
Yeah.
the deal, but I mean, I think they could be the 2 best teams.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good whenever y'all are now.
I'm ready to go in. We'll start with Detroit, Houston, Kansas City,
Woo.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Then
Start
we'll
with
do
the
the
AL, then move to the
Well,
NL.
Yeah, exactly. We'll end with Padres
Okay.
That works.
and you, Darvish. Look at him; he's so happy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back from the break. As it's time to get into the Major League Baseball playoffs, and things have been getting hot and heavy all evening tonight. And
Been
we're going to go ahead
interesting.
and kick it right off with the team that we are so happy that got knocked out. Houston
Yay!
Astros.
They got swept.
They
They
got
just got knocked out.
swept
They got swept
by
by
the
the Detroit
Detroit
Tigers.
Tigers.
who at
And
one point
they-
this year had a 0.01% chance to make the playoffs.
The Tigers had to win their way into the playoffs, and they came in and they got
turned it
hot.
around.
Knocked it into
This
knock
is-
out Houston and just completely get them out of the playoffs was so fantastic.
Especially with that late hit against Hader, who has one of the memes I've seen after this game come out. Hader makes more than the entire Tigers roster at this moment, by like $1 million. Who gave up the big home run to allow the sweep to happen in the 8th inning.
That makes me even
Oh.
happier just because with Hader going over to Houston early in the season, which we dealt with
Yeah.
that when we hear on the show. But just to be able to see him, he's the reason why they lost it. Even better. Even better.
Yep.
Right.
No love
And
lost.
What makes this kind of ironic too is the fact
And then
that
the Astros streak of 7 straight ACLs too. So thank you, Tigers, for not us having us watch them anymore. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh no, what I was just going to say is what makes this ironic is that the manager of the Tigers is AJ Hinch, who is the manager for all
Yeah.
those years.
Disgrace.
for the Astros.
Well,
Great.
hold on. Do we need to
It's
check the
great.
Tigers for trash cans? Do we
No.
need to check the Tigers dugout for trash cans?
He was just
Right.
who they hung it on, and they let the players continue on with no
The
penalty.
Altuve microphone, as the saying goes. He didn't want his jersey ripped open to
Correct.
show
So
the
yeah, Hinch
microphone.
was the clear fall guy in all of it. But again, as we touched on a little bit last week, this Tarek Skubal for the Tigers is unbelievable. He had an unbelievable game in Game 1 against Houston. Showed why he's the AL Cy Young award winner in my mind. And you just had clutch hits by Detroit, and it's really been symbolic of their run since the start of September. This is not a lineup filled with superstars. I mean, you have a guy like Riley Green, who's your best player, but and just to give you an idea of what your best player is 262, 24 home runs, 74 RBIs, 348 on base percentage, 134 hits. So he's really your only source of production in the lineup. And then again, Tarek Skubal, who's going to win the Cy Young this year. You've had a decent but not great starting rotation. The fact that they were able to scrounge together a run and then get a sweep against the Astros is
we know the
downright.
Astros aren't necessarily great. They're not one of those great teams, but they're a good team still. I'll give them that.
But
they won the division. They won the West.
They had, and this
Granted, that's
Tigers
not too much
team,
to write about when you got the A's, the Angels, the Rangers.
They also
and the
battled back
Mariners.
from like being fourth in division to win the West.
Right. It also too, yeah. I mean, they had an
That
awful
was really
start
early
to the
on,
year.
though. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, after September 14th, this Tigers team was 76 and 73. They would go.
Yeah,
they win.
like I
10
said,
out
at one point in time, I think they had like a 10% chance just to make the playoffs,
Well, that's what I'm alluding to.
or maybe
is
a
the fact-
1% chance.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is that they essentially had no chance whatsoever. Then they sweep KC. They sweep Tampa Bay. They get 2 out of 3 against Kansas City. So that was just an unbelievable finish to the season. Really don't
knocking
have
Minnesota out of the way too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who we thought was going to be the other AL Central representative, but really no real answer as to why Detroit all of a sudden got hot, but they did. And so really you can only point to your star pitcher in Skubal and Riley Green, holding up that lineup. But and also too a solid job by the bullpen for the most part for Detroit in this first series. But really, I think when you look at it from the Astros perspective, is the fact that the AL West was just not a very good division
Not at all.
this year, and so I think really you were exposed in this series by a hot team. You had Yordan Alvarez, who had a phenomenal year. Altuve was always great. However, the pitching was inconsistent a lot, with the exception of Framber Valdez. However, he didn't have a good game in Game 1, and that cost him Game 1. And then Hunter Brown, who's a solid pitcher, he is not known for his ability to go for a lot of innings, and I believe he only went 4 innings today. And then the bullpen just was not there this year at all. And so I think what we're starting to see now is just a regression of the Houston Astros dynasty. The issue is
who in the West is going to step up and take it, because it was the Rangers. They did win the World Series last year. There's a prime opportunity to win the West again, and even more prime for the Mariners to win it again, to win the West finally.
Yeah.
Both of those teams did not cash in this year, so I think we'll have a different NL West champion next year. Whether or not that's the Rangers or Mariners, it'll be one of those two teams. But I think it's.
What
I
about
think
the
Astros
Angels?
dynasty is coming to the end.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
we'll never see.
Yeah,
We
the
won't see
Angels,
the
I
Angels
think,
for another
finished.
20 years.
The Angels almost, I think, finished with
Anyways.
it. They were one win away from, or one loss away, I think, from their worst record in franchise history.
Yeah, I mean,
And White Sox got the record for mediocrity.
And while
so
we're talking about the AL Central, we'll talk about the next game, which is Kansas City knocking off Baltimore and sweeping Baltimore. To me, this was a big surprise. Baltimore had lofty, hopes this year, and Kansas City comes in, Bobby Witt Jr. hitting the go-ahead run in and knocking the sweep. So we went from a couple of years ago to the AL Central being one of the worst divisions of baseball to having 3 of the 4 teams left in the American League playoffs.
Yeah.
that's unbelievable.
What a difference a year makes, as they say.
Yeah, the Guardians. I said it right. The Tigers and the Royals. So
and Bears, oh my! I mean,
again, kind of the opposite of the way the Tigers came in the playoffs. I mean, the Royals through September 14th were 15 games above 500. They proceeded to lose the next 7. Took 10 innings to beat the Nationals the next day. And then
they looked bad against the Pirates when I saw them up here. They lost to the Pirates, the game we went to.
Correct. And that was the start of the 7-game losing streak that almost cost them a playoff berth. But then, they came limping in to the playoffs. And I think you got to be devastated if you're Baltimore, because the one thing that you were kind of worried about going into playoff series is the pitching. But Corbin Burns was lights out, but they lose the game 1-0. And then today they lose 2-1. The
bats just didn't wake up.
Right, when they have been awake all season long.
But that was the same thing that happened last season against the Rangers. The bats fell asleep in the playoffs.
Yeah,
right, exactly. And then I think it was a big mistake to take out Zach Eflin after 4 innings, who had only thrown the ball 75 times, gave up 1 earned run, 50 strikes. He had plenty of room left in the tank. But again, this is now 2 years in a row. You had the Orioles last year win 101 games. 101 games last year, and then 91 this year. No playoff wins. No playoff wins.
Do we need a new manager who can do stuff in the playoffs?
I don't know.
Well,
maybe.
My question for you is, which is the bigger disappointment, Houston or Baltimore at this point?
It's got to be Baltimore. Yeah.
Baltimore. I agree. I think Baltimore had too many lofty expectations throughout the whole season, especially for how long they led the AL East. I mean, the Yankees were able to take it back over, but it was between those two the whole season.
Right. That was the race of the year. Everybody talked about it.
Everyone
partially because it's the Yankees
those were
too.
the 2 best teams in the not only in the AL East, obviously, but the entire AL, and for a majority of the season, 2 of the best teams in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They were, but you can't count out Bobby Witt Jr.
Barely not.
Good.
Go Bobby.
I think it's going to be great to see him, because really these wild card games, they happen, in the middle afternoon while everyone
Which is a weird
working.
Scheduling thing.
And
why would you put it during a work day?
No, they need to stack these games up and do 2 at 6:30, 2 at 9:30. just no, don't do these during the middle of the day because people aren't seeing them, and you're missing a lot of great baseball, especially when you're in these three game series that
Exactly.
you're not going to see these guys play. And there's just been some amazing games that have happened.
Right, and we'll all be watching Bobby Witt Jr. on the national stage when they go against the Yankees on Saturday. So if anyone has not seen Bobby Witt yet, you will see plenty of him starting in the ALDS for sure.
They're against the Pinstripes.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
So now moving over to the National League.
Yes.
Woohoo! The watch continues.
New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. The Mets had won yesterday, so were looking for the sweep as well. But in the bottom
the
of the
only team not to do it.
Mitchell giving the way to give away the rest of the other series.
Yes.
True.
Mitchell
Spoilers ahead. Sorry. Spoilers.
2-run home run in the bottom of the eighth to give the Brewers a 5-3 lead and extend their series to one more game. And this is the first playoff game Milwaukee's had in a while. I think they were saying on there. I just kind of glanced at it because we were in an earlier segment. But
yeah, there's a lot of teams that this is some of their first playoff baseball in a long, long time. I mean, we were looking up earlier before the Orioles hadn't won a playoff game since 2014. That's how long they go back now. But I mean, the Royals haven't been in the playoffs since they won the World Series, I think.
And seeing the Mets in the playoffs after the fire sale they had last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Verlander, Scherzer. I mean, that alone is impressive as hell, regardless of the loss.
Like I say, Brewers and Padres being in it, like you said, for the first time in years. I mean, well, I think the Brewers might have been in it a couple of years ago.
Brewers have been in it a couple of times.
They don't get very far.
They got to win. They got to win, which is one of the first wins yesterday. But exciting game there. That one's going to be going to a third game, the only one going. Thanks for ruining that, Caleb. But
you're welcome.
The other series, Atlanta and San Diego. Atlanta, after all the injuries, it was just impressive them making the playoffs. They have nothing to hang their heads about as they ended up losing 5-4 to San Diego today and getting swept. And the effing Padres,
yay,
are going to the LDS.
Going to the Dodgers.
It's happening. And so I think this is a situation with the Dodgers and the Padres. I think the winner of this series is going to go to the World Series. I just think these are two of the hottest teams in baseball. Yes, the Phillies have had a great year, but they've gotten a little stale as the season has gone on. To me, these are the two hottest teams anyway in baseball right now, and I think the winner of this series will go on to win the World Series or go to the World Series.
Right. I can agree with that very much. So you say the Padres are just riding high right now. House money.
Right, and also too, I think it's great to see again, as we've discussed before, Jurickson Profar, after all these years, finally clicking for him. Manny Machado, Yu Darvish, Manny Machado, all the money they paid him, working out for him. Fernando Tatis getting fully healthy again.
And finally waking up.
Right, and then also too, the Padres picking up Luis Arias, who's been a phenomenal hitter the past couple of years in Miami, and that's been great for them too. So
use those little pieces and finally get somebody to manage them.
Correct, and also too, you have a pitcher friendly park in Petco, so that's always going to help your pitching staff and your bullpen. So I think this has been just a great year all around from the front office, and as far as you alluded to, for the manager. I mean, I think getting a veteran a manager in like Mike Schilt, who's done it before for many years in St. Louis, came in, knew exactly what he was doing, and he's done a great job.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll have more talk about as the MLB postseason moves steadily
Well, there's
along.
one thing I want to bring up MLB news wise, and I'm happy that they're doing this. Starting next year in the All-Star, they're going to bring back and let the players wear their team uniforms instead of these god awful
Thank
AL and
Good.
All-Star jerseys. Ugh.
I can't believe they're actually doing it, but it's I love to hear that.
that is the only way it needs to be. So good for them finally waking up to their senses. At least they'll do it for a couple years before they try to do this nonsense ever again right afterwards.
Right. Back when it makes money again.
Exactly. We'll go ahead and take a final break here as we'll be back with the last segment here in just a moment.
What do we even got for this gumbo? I mean, when you got the Karl Anthony Towns trade, it's the only thing I can think of, in all honesty, unless there's some premier football that needs to be brought up.
Oh, there is.
So, yeah, there's Premier League, and then there's the Cat trade, and then
if we want to touch on the deaths of Pete Rose and Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah, we can give them a nod at the end.
Yeah, we'll raise our cheers to them.
Yep. Yeah, I've got Arsenal's over Leicester City 4-2. Scored their 2 goals to win in the extra time there in the second period. Newcastle getting the goal late to tie Manchester City 1-1, still giving them only 1 point, still in the win from them. And then how terrible West Ham is this year. They're 14th in the Premier League, and Wolverhampton sitting at 20th, down at the very bottom and looking at relegation.
Yeah, I mean that they've been on the downside for a couple of years, but now they're going to flat out get relegated.
It's bad, and that's the thing is when I first looked at teams to pick, I saw
almost the Wolvers.
I looked at their logo. I was like, "Oh, look, Wolf, that's pretty cool." But then I saw the cannon, and I was like, "Oh no, got to go with the cannon." And
you got lucky. You long-suffering Arsenal fan.
Hey, it's been many years that loss, that tie against Man City was really, really rough. But I think they're looking strong. We're looking good again this year.
Right, Manchester United's that bad.
Only they can get Martin Odegaard back. He's out injured,
Yeah.
and it's going to be out for a few more weeks. And it's even though he's been out, I mean, Trossard has been looking amazing.
Yeah.
Belgian. All right, I'm ready to go. Do you want to go ahead and start with Cat? You want to do?
Yeah, I'll let Jeff bring it up since it is Timberwolves.
Okay.
All right,
we can get into it.
5, 4, 3, 2. And welcome back from the break, as it's time for the last segment of the evening, the Sports Gumbo, where we'll hit on all of the different sports aspects that we couldn't get in the earlier segments. And the first ingredient into the gumbo, I know Jeff wants to throw this one in, so go for it, Jeff.
The Sports Gumbo it is, and very rarely do you see a blockbuster NBA deal in September, but we saw one transpire on Friday night. So that trade, I'll bring up the exact particulars here, but it was Karl Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle. I think overall
and
that
Dante DiVincenzo.
And Dante DiVincenzo.
They're no longer the Villanova Knicks.
Correct. Yes. No longer the Villanova Knicks. So, yes. But so basically just the exact details of the trade. Cat will join the Knicks
and then Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are going to go to the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves will also acquire a 2025 top 13 protected first-round pick from the Knicks. And apparently, I don't know how the Charlotte Hornets figure into this deal, but draft compensation
To
from
make
them
that
will
to make the
facilitate.
compensation equal.
Exactly. So I think this is a great trade for Minnesota.
Great trade. They
because-
trade rape New York. Are you kidding me? They trade
Yeah,
rape New York.
This is bad for.
I
I don't
think-
think this helps necessarily either team. I mean, the Knicks want health because of they don't know how Robinson's going to do, but you can't trust Randall. He had a great year. Okay, congratulations. He had actually a couple of good years, but to me, he's still the bust that he was. I don't think this improves
How
the
is
Timberwolves.
Randall a bust?
I think this is a good
I mean-
opportunity for Randall
said
because you're not expecting him to do what he was being expected to do at New York.
That's possible.
He can sit back
Right.
and
And
he
so-
can sit
and
back
also
behind
too-
these other stars and just be, hide behind them basically, and that's what he needs to do. He can still give you quality
And also
points,
too-
quality minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right. Oh no, I was just going to say it. Look, I'm very thankful for Cat's services here in Minnesota, and he was a great player.
He was weak.
But
Proved it multiple
the
times. That he was
injuries,
weak.
the injuries were just such a killer, and as we saw specifically in that Mavericks series in the playoffs, he just disappeared. He flat out disappeared, and he was strictly a perimeter player at that point. He was not a physical player down low.
Well, was that more
whatsoever.
trying to give Gobert room to operate? Because Gobert's not going
No.
after those threes. He's got to
No,
stay
no.
inside.
No, they had room for both players down there. That's why Naz Reid was put in place for Cat, because Cat couldn't play defense anymore. He couldn't play inside anymore. That's why Naz Reid came in to that series and was really had an impactful series. It just obviously wasn't good enough. But I think what you're going to get here with Julius Randle is, yes, he's had some health issues also, but you're going to get a much physical presence down low. You're adding another solid defender in Dante DiVincenzo.
He really
as
upped
well
his
on the
3-point
perimeter.
percentage last season.
Correct, and he's yes, absolutely is.
I think he
improved
shot
as a 3-point.
41% this last year and bumped it up from like 32, 33% or something. So, I mean, he made a big jump
Right.
last year.
Yes, he's definitely improved as a shooter, and he's really got a solid niche role as a defender too. But yeah, I mean he's a 40% 3-point shooter now.
And the reports that I heard about him is, as both of you brought up, Nova and Knicks are not going to be together, is that when they brought everyone together for that, after the end of the season, that he was very vocal that he was not happy about that situation because of the way that his play had improved this last season, that he would be losing minutes because of the additions of bringing Mikal Bridges and bringing the rest of Villanova guys all together, that he was not happy and actually requested to be traded so that he could have a better opportunity to get more minutes with another team.
Maybe.
But that's the report that I've
And
seen.
so I
That's
think-
what he said, is that he came out and said that, is that I'm not going to get
Right.
enough minutes now, and that's I earned it. I want more minutes, so you need to trade me. And that's why he got included
Right.
into the
I
trade.
mean,
Well, fair enough. Then yeah.
I think I'll
Goodbye, good riddance.
and
in
I'll
that case.
and I love, and that's the most I think underrated part of the trade is the fact that you get DiVincenzo on top of it, and you get a top 13 protected pick if it comes to that. I think just from the outside looking in, even if just again not being a Timberwolves fan here, but if you're the Knicks, to me, you got Karl Anthony Towns, who's a solid player, but to think he solves your center needs, I'm sorry, I don't see that at all. You're missing two. You're missing a very rugged defender and player.
Well, I think that's why they're hoping
Randle.
Robinson are gonna be there, as long as he can stay healthy.
No, don't even put Mitchell Robinson into
I'm
that.
I'm not saying it's
category.
a good idea. I'm just saying that's what the Knicks, I think, are thinking. Is Robinson will be here. He'll be that
I think
guy.
that's.
Charlie's going to be more
gave
power
up another great
guy.
defender in DiVincenzo, not to mention his improved three-point shooting too. So you just gave up probably two of your most physical players for someone who's not physical, in theory, to fit a center need, which, frankly, Karl Anthony Towns is a three-point shooter at this point. He cannot play inside anymore. So, I mean, I won't go as far as what Porter said, but I feel really good about the trade. And I would make this trade 100 times out of 100.
Yes, exactly. Because you trade rate New York. You gave them, your biggest liability and added pretty good defensive worth from that, more than what you got.
Yeah.
You didn't need the offensive help because you got that already with Anthony Edwards. So, yeah, you trade rate him. It is what it is. Hey, that's good. At first, when I saw this trade, I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care about this trade. Now I look back at it, I'm like, I think Minnesota got better. And I don't really care what happened to the Knicks because they're out of the Mavericks conference. So I don't really care. But I think Minnesota got better. Do I think it's enough for them to take the next step? That I don't know. But I do think they got better than from where they were. But I don't know if this is going to be enough to help get them over the hump.
I don't know if it is either, but the fact that they were able to pull off a trade like this in September and just to take a step forward in the right direction, I think it's great. And I think
it's definitely positive.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you look at the top four from last year, top four to next year, I think it's going to be. I don't know if I don't think it'll necessarily be the exact order, but I think we'll see the same. There's a good chance we see the same top four again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but don't leave out Utah. Or excuse me, Denver.
Denver, yeah. Utah's gone for a long time. What I wanted to bring up was English Premier League this last weekend on Saturday. I'm sitting at my son's soccer game and had the Arsenal game on my phone because they were tied 2-2 going into extra time. And the Gunners able to put in 2 goals to win 4-2 against Leicester City. And what made this one really big is that earlier that morning, Newcastle was able to score late in extra time and tie up with Manchester City, so denying them the win, forcing a draw on only 1 point. And leaves Arsenal and Manchester City tied with 14 points, with Liverpool a slight lead at 15. Once again, those 3 teams battling it out there at the top of the standings of the English Premier League. And there's been lots of reports of, is Arsenal now taking the next step? That's still too early to say. The season's still way too young to even start mentioning that right now. But as a long standing Arsenal fan for many, many seasons and years, this is very positive here.
Oh, goodness.
I know that whole part of London has just suffered for so long. It's time to go ahead and move this up. I like their chances now. They did lose Martin Odegaard there in the middle of the field, and that hurts. But at the same time, they've been playing extremely well since he's been out. Whether it's been playing for him, I don't know, but they've been looking really sharp since then. But he is a huge loss, so they're going to have out for I think 4 to 6 weeks, I believe, just off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been a major part of their offense. So that has been rough. But the biggest surprise. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. What you're saying.
Oh no, I was. Oh no, I was just going to say real quickly on that Arsenal Man City. If you're Arsenal, you just got to be sweating your balls off because you're up 2-0 in that game against Leicester City, and then
they scored 2,
and then they scored 2, and then to get both of those goals in extra time to win 4-2, and then having Manchester City just tie Newcastle in a game in which was a pretty sloppy performance by Manchester City. Erling Haaland did not have the best of games that day. So
they're kind of just going through the motions at this point.
I think that's a perfect way to describe it.
When you've won the English Premier League 4 years in a row, it's kind of like, okay, we can just coast for a little while. As long as we're close, we can finish it out, which is like what they did last year. So they were in fourth place, and then we're able to turn it on.
Yeah, that's true. And sad as it is, it might happen again.
And earlier this week in Champions play, Arsenal was able to knock off Paris Saint-Germain and knock them down. They beat them the last 2 games, and this one they beat them pretty handily. But they've been able to beat them the last 2 games, and that's about all I know as far as that tournament goes. But
that's huge. I mean,
I know it's huge, but I just don't know anything about it.
I mean, Paris Saint-Germain, they're obviously the best team in France. They're absolutely loaded. And for Arsenal to knock them off twice,
they beat them
now
2-0. 2-0 this last game.
And I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, Italy, you have, for Paris Saint-Germain, you have the best goalie, Italy's goalkeeper, Donnarumma, who's the best player. You have Nuno Mendes on that team. You just have tons and tons of stars, just defensively and offensively. I mean, the fact that you beat them 2-0 is just pretty incredible. So, I mean, the Arsenal, I think, is a legit contender to win the Champions League, which would be, again, I know you're not too familiar with the Champions League, but that's arguably just as big as the Premier League, if not bigger.
Well, the only surprising thing that's happened so far early in the season is the fall of Wolverhampton and West Ham. West Ham, as people may know from Ted Lasso, if you're not English Premier League fans, but you like the Ted Lasso show, you'll see a lot about West Ham. They're down to 14th and just not even competing really in matches. It's been rough. And Wolverhampton is now sitting dead last at 20th. And if things don't turn around,
they got to hire Ted Lasso. That's all I'm saying.
They need to hire Ted Lasso, and then they wouldn't go into relegation. But Wolverhampton, fear relegation early as the season goes along.
Yeah, them and Southampton are in serious trouble. Who Arsenal, I believe, plays this weekend.
Here we go. If you want to watch the games, you need to make sure you have the Peacock app.
Yes, and that'll be an easy win for Arsenal and a much-needed break after games against Leicester City and Paris Saint-Germain. Then you get Bournemouth. So enjoy your break. And you have a bye weekend between Southampton and Bournemouth.
With Bournemouth, I think last week tied West Ham.
West Ham is not right
now. No, there's something
wrong, right?
No, they're not good, and they're not going to get relegated. But I mean, they're just not going to come anywhere
They're
close
hanging out
to
in the middle is what they're doing. They're hanging in mediocrity purgatory,
correct. Which
and they've been kind of that
Wolverhampton
way
was doing.
since they traded Declan Rice over to Arsenal.
That probably was not a good idea. Just saying.
I think it was a fantastic idea.
Well, yes, fantastic for Arsenal, yes.
Yes,
But again, when you have the money, and West Ham probably didn't have the money to pay, you got to take advantage of it.
Oh, and the score I just saw popped up over here on the I think it happened today in the Champions League. Aston Villa knocking off Bayern Munich 1-0.
Okay. Yeah, where's Aston Villa been this year? They've been a little quiet.
They've been quiet, but they've been close. They've been close from the few games I've seen from them. They've been right in it, but that's a big one to knock off Bayern Munich.
Yes, especially again. I mean, great for the EPL just to have not even your number one teams, go in and beat Bayern Munich, his number one team in Germany, and then to beat the number one team in France. So, yeah, great for the English Premier League, and then also too good for Arsenal that they already beat Aston Villa at the beginning of the year. That was a nice 2-0 victory.
Well, that's all I had here in the gumbo. Caleb, you got anything?
No, that's all. We think we got it rounded up.
No ingredients for Caleb, so he just gets to put love over the top of the gumbo.
Sure.
All right.
And I'll put some death on top of it, though, real quickly.
That's right.
Wow.
All
Make
right.
it dark.
Mm-hmm.
Two
Mhm.
He burned
legends.
through is what he did.
Yep.
Two
the legends.
Two legends passed away on Monday. One NBA legend and Dikembe Mutombo, who was not only a fantastic player, but also off the court, just a phenomenal philanthropist who did so much for the continent of Africa, and just one of the most charitable guys and most nice people that you'll ever
No.
No. No. So Hall of Fame career, obviously on the court, but Hall of Fame career off the court with all his humanitarian work. Again, what he's done for the continent of Africa, what he's done for Special Olympics, what he's done for really just medical wise. He's provided so many kids in Africa with needs that they never would have had if it weren't for him. Just like hospitals, medical care, economic development. I just the list goes on and on what he's done for Africa, and it was just came as a shock because I don't think anyone had any clue that he was in poor health, but it just
was
came
brain
out of the
cancer.
blue.
Just something that's something he was able to keep hidden away until finally it was there's too much. So R.I.P. Dikembe, and
Right.
all the SWAT shots that you had. And yeah, you had one more, didn't you? Yeah, we did have one more big loss in the sports world.
Correct. And we also have Pete Rose, who was actually a piece of shit off the field, but he is one of the best players or obviously the best hitter of all time. And obviously the whole, gambling scandal that he had in the late 80s, doesn't really seem to be as big of a deal anymore, considering the access
game's
to
bet on
gambling
now.
and how the MLB themselves promotes gambling. But
Otani
for
didn't get in
example,
trouble for it.
no, Tony did not get in trouble for it.
He
And
did
then,
not.
Yeah.
and obviously MLB is not even acknowledged themselves the death of Pete Rose. There's been no moment of silence or any kind of acknowledgement to his death. I talked about this off air a little bit. I talked to my brother about it off air. Y'all have the same opinion that he will now get in the Hall of Fame as just the final middle finger to Pete Rose. And
I've said for
who knows,
years
that could
that
happen.
they would only put him in the hall that once he died, they would put him in the Hall of Fame in the next vote. Just because that way he wouldn't get to appreciate it. Because they would
That
at least
might be
recognize
the
what
case.
he did on the field, but they thought he was such a jackass that they just did not want him to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's possible.
And
Yeah.
there was a story because I was talking to Joel Broker. He's been on the podcast
Friend
before.
of the show.
Friend of the
Mhm.
show. I had a conversation with him yesterday about Pete Rose and said that when him and a few of the guys were up in Vegas years ago for a trip, that they went by a sports memorabilia place. There was a guy out in a Phillies jersey that was trying to get everybody to come in, get an autograph of Pete Rose. And they went in, and Pete Rose was sitting at a table, and there was no one in line. No one was even there. No one came to even see him.
That's
And
crazy.
Joel said that he had talked to him. He didn't get his autograph because it's $50 for an autograph. The best hitter ever in baseball is just sitting there in Vegas with no one in line for $50 for an autograph. And basically told him, "Hey, man, you got screwed. You should be in the Hall of Fame." And apparently, Pete Rose just goes, "Thanks."
Yeah. he wrote like some nice letter near the end of his time, supposedly 2 years before his death, about wanting to get into the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame again. It's like, I
Yeah,
understand
the
I did
problem
wrong.
is if he didn't lie about it the whole time, if he just came clean and said he did it, it probably would have been fine. Also, too, he had the deal with underage girl in the 70s.
Oh, wait, we're talking
And
about Chris Collinsworth now?
No, we're talking about Pete Rose.
Because he did too. Because he likes little girls.
No, we're talking about Pete Rose, and also too the chicken shit thing he did to Ray Fosse in the 1970 All-Star game when he ran over him for no fucking reason whatsoever.
I'll do some away.
No,
Right.
no, it's just a dick move to do, and Ray Fosse was never the same player after that.
No.
And so I don't know, just the things that. Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, he probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but
When you
he's
look
not
at
a
the Hall of
Fame
Fame, you're
person.
not looking at saints or sinners. You're looking at play on the field. That's all
Right,
it is.
exactly.
Play on the
And
field
he
and what
should
they
be,
did on
and
the
he
field.
should be in the Hall of Fame because there's plenty of pieces of shit people in the Hall of Fame already, and
Yeah, and there's
that's why
pieces
Pete
of
Rose should be
voters
in.
as well too. You got the one guy
100%.
that voted anonymous to the one no vote for Jeter, and then
Oh,
said it as anonymous, which we've had that discussion multiple
That
times.
fuck stick. Yeah,
That's
we've
just
had that multiple
it's fucking shitty. Like, come on, there's shitty everywhere. I mean, don't vote on the person's character when you're doing Hall of Fame. It's not about their character, unfortunately. This is about their play on the field. Just their play on the field. What did they do? What are their stats? What did they do on the field? We're not.
Well, are you putting in Barry Bonds then, according to that logic? Or
Well,
Roger
that's also-
Clemens?
I think they should be in the Hall of Fame, and it should be their own wing, which is the steroid wing. It's the steroid era wing. You give them their own wing. They're in the Hall of Fame. It represents, hey, we're recognizing what you did, but we're also recognizing the era that it was in and recognizing, hey, this was an era that has been tainted by steroids, but you are in the Hall of Fame because of what you did. But there was a reason why you did what you did. Because Barry Bonds would have been in the Hall of Fame without taking the steroids.
He would have, yeah.
Just his Pittsburgh career, he would have been in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It,
Yes,
it's
he's
close,
lived.
but yeah, it was a great
No,
career. Just even
The
then.
Barry Bonds.
I don't know if they have the
basically-
longevity to be a Hall of Fame though.
I think it would've
Basically, no, Barry Bonds
It could've.
before
Like,
steroids.
I mean, the fact you can argue it's impressive.
Yeah.
No, but Barry Bonds before the steroids and human growth hormone was a surefire Hall of Famer. What Barry Bonds turned into after he got on human growth hormone and steroids was the best baseball player to have ever lived, in my opinion.
Best
he
hitter,
was
at
on-
least. Yeah.
When he was on human growth hormone and steroids, hands down the best ball player I've ever seen. When you have an on base percentage of 61%, are you freaking kidding me? That is fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
this
not
has
But yes,
wrong.
been,
he rose in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of
this
Fame.
has
and-
been an enjoyable conversation, and we look forward to it again next week, as you two will be butting heads over the Baltimore-Cincinnati game. Of course, we'll get more intrigue in the college football landscape, and we'll see how things are progressing in the AL and NL Divisional League series. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this week. For Caleb Gold, for Jeff, this is Chris Porter, and we'll see everyone again at the next round. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yay.
All right, everybody. One I wanted to float by y'all, one that Maggie's brought up to me.
Mhm.